Hello there, Internet. Version 2 here with the absurdly long finale of Let's Read Danganronpa Zero. Motherfucker. Okay, so overall, this is 247 pages of the PDF, this entire book. We're up to 160. So we have 87 pages left. So this is roughly a third of everything that we've done so far. So sit back, relax for the next 3 to 4 hours as we read the end of this. It's all one chapter, so I figure it should all be done at once. So yay. If my voice starts getting coarse by the end of it, I apologize, but hey, I mean, even the other series that I've done where it's been this long, like the other Danganronpa videos, usually the ones that are 3 to 4 hours in that, there's other characters talking, so I'm not doing all the talking, where this time I'm doing literally all the talking. So oh boy, I've got a giant glass of lemon cordial next to me to soothe my throat as this goes on. It's just so much reading. Where'd we leave off? We left off with Junko confronting Matsuda about how Matsuda has to make a choice between hope and despair about what the fuck happens from this point onwards. Matsuda seemed frustrated with her and very indecisive about what he was actually planning on doing. Meanwhile, Ryuko and Sex Pest 2 Electric Fuckwit were discussing how to actually expose Junko or find Junko for all this, while Ryuko started hearing voices in her head. So, with that, we shall continue and find out where the fuck this ends, because despite us knowing where Danganronpa 1 starts and everything, I'm curious where this ends, because we don't know enough about the before Danganronpa 1 to know what actually happens here. So I'm very, very, very curious. I mean, it's the end of a Danganronpa thing, so there's always twists and turns and plot things and all of that. So all that's gonna happen. So, Chapter 7. It was at that moment that I woke up, out of the blue. As my consciousness returned to me, I couldn't help but feel completely refreshed and, thank goodness, I said without realizing. I'm guessing this is Ryuko then. Also, it's first person. So, actually, there were times before where Matsuda was in first person as well, but not relevant. For a long time, perhaps, I was having an awful nightmare, but that's over now. I was finally free of my long-lasting nightmare. Or maybe not. Somehow, it felt like this place also belonged in my nightmare. Because if that wasn't the case, then why else would I be in this room? The walls, the ceiling, the floor, everything was covered with concrete. I couldn't see any doors or windows. Okay. I believe after she started hearing the voices, she passed out. I think that's what it said, so where the fuck? So why would I be in such a strange room? Where am I? At least I was certain this place wasn't my room. No matter how forgetful I could get, I know I would never live in such an eerie room without a good reason for doing so. Don't tell me. I've been arrested or something. Arrested, my words bounced off the cold, grey concrete. I thought I could hear a man coming to my room, stamping his feet with a thumping sound. It was really just the monster we've come to call loneliness. Damn, you're getting deep here, Ryuko. I can't find the exit. It was at that time I sat up quickly. I realized I had been sleeping on a bed. The bed had a pretty pink princess-style canopy with an antique feel that little girls everywhere would have wanted. But oddly enough, it was standing alone in the middle of a bare concrete room. Well, at least there's something. The concrete between the delicate decorations of the bed and the bare minimum on the walls only added to the overall creepiness of the room. In addition, there were other parts of the room that were missing altogether. Pardon me. If this room was perfectly complete, there would have been furniture and a door, but this room was absolutely missing those factors. As I quickly finished analyzing my surroundings the monster I spoke of earlier began to get to work. My fear and anxiety felt like it turned to pitch black tar, as it felt as though it wanted to steal my freedom of movement. Ooh, having ghosts again. A moan snuck past my shaking and trembling lips. The room's outline and shape started to slowly distort. Tears began to appear in my eyes, but it's no use crying over this situation. It's no use to cry. I held out for dear life and desperate, pardon me. And despite my intention to hold them back, the tears that had gathered in my eyes began spilling out. Good morning, madam. Yeah? What? Startled, I realized there was a female maid standing next to the wall. Good morning, madam. Had you not realized this before? Okay. A voice came from it. It really is a girl. I could see the girl's face behind her clothes, but only the face of her mask. Due to her mask, I couldn't determine her actual appearance. The mask in question was an eerie bear mask, which filled me with bad feelings. The right half was a white, cute bear. The left half was a black, evil bear. Fun! Here we go. The girl wearing maid clothing faced me and spoke to me in a happy tone. Good morning, madam. I have prepared some tea for your morning routine. I don't think I'm a madam. The girl didn't appear to hear me as she simply walked over to me and shoved the silver tray she held onto me. On top of the tray was a teacup with a floral pattern on it. Steam rose from the teacup and disappeared into the air. Thank you? My throat was parched after waking up and was in desperate need of moisture. Forgetting my prior caution, I picked up the teacup and drank the tea out of it. Too cold, disgusting, it's so weak. Incredibly, it was a 3-time loser. The tea was too cold. Unable to hide my expression, I placed the teacup back on the tray. I shall be taking my leave now, the bear maid said as she turned on her heel and began to walk somewhere. Wait, where are you going? I quickly called out. What was that? As the bear maid asked me, she knocked on the wall in front of me. Just like in a ninja temple, after she knocked once, the wall rotated around. A hidden door? Here, at the time when we built this facility, we wanted to adhere to Madam's sense of playfulness. Pardon me. This is gonna go well. This really long thing if my voice is already gone. The playfulness is fine, but I'm leaving. I raised my voice, feeling desperate. The bear mask tilted to the side. Just because you want to leave doesn't mean you should leave. The tilt to the side, I know that exact expression from the actual games. This time my own face tilting to the side. Even if I want to leave, I can't. What the hell? Am I being confined here? Confined? A surprised voice echoed off the walls. Confinement? That's a bit of leap in logic. The man-made shoulders shook with laughter. Just because I appear to be doesn't mean I am laughing. I didn't. On the contrary, I am filled with sadness beyond compare. Her shoulders shook more. I am saddened because you are such an interesting person. I'm afraid I cannot make sense of your jokes. As it is currently, I don't think I'll ever fulfill my dream of having Mono Bear leaving everything to me. How sad. Already getting confusing. The bear maid hunched over, looking heartbroken. I don't think I understand. Also, is Mono Bear just meant to be Monokuma, or is the name Monokuma not decided yet? I don't think I understand, but for the time being, just how do I get out of here? Can you show me? As I prompted the girl, she moved to the hidden door. I looked around the room to find my bag beside my bed. Sorry, wait a second. I quickly got out of bed and picked up my bag. I felt its familiar weight. There was no mistaking it was mine. Now, time to get out of here, I said, pushing the bear maid to the side as I left the room of concrete behind me. What awaited me outside the room was a strange sight indeed. It was a wide space that looked like a hall, but just like the previous room, the room's ceilings, wall, and floor were all covered in nothing but concrete. However, even though the room itself was wide, the ceiling was very low, and it made me feel like I was cooped up. A fluorescent light hung from the ceiling, illuminating the concrete, which only added to the bleakness of the room. Inside the room, I counted around 50 legs belonging to school desks, each evenly spaced throughout the room. At every desk, there was a person sitting behind it. There were various men and women, all wearing the same school uniform. Furthermore, on their faces, they all wore, again, bear masks. The right half, a white cute bear. The left half, a black evil bear. So are these just people from the parade if we've got that many people here? Hey, that bear sure seems popular, doesn't it? The maid next to me, wearing the same mask, answered me. That's not a bear, that is Mono Bear. Mono Bear? I didn't really care about the name at all. All I could see was many men and women, all sitting at school desks, wearing the same school uniform with weird and creepy masks. There was nothing else I could focus on apart from the strange scene in front of me. Even so, I noticed that in front of the Mono Bear heads, still seated at their desks, were monitors. The Mono Bear heads all stared at the monitors, almost like they were preparing to eat them. From where I stood, I can only see the back of the monitors. I had no idea what kind of video they were playing. All the same, they appeared to be focusing all their attention on them. They were motionless, staring patiently at the monitors, with all the vitality of a mannequin. I, on the other hand, felt like I had found myself in an empty graveyard. What are these people? When I asked timidly, the Mono Bear maid answered with a serious tone. We are mutants. Everyone is oppressed, and so we barred ourselves away. You had to? We wanted to. instead of hope? Please pay attention. Mutants and such have excellent capabilities. For the most part, we have not been oppressed. On the other hand, we believe it would be a waste to not hold back our abilities at least a little. Thus, we would like to experience oppression in some form. What the fuck is going on? I couldn't understand what the girl was saying at all. For the time being, instead, I tried to change the topic. By the way, I was wondering where this place is. I was waiting for that, the mono bear maid answered me in a proud tone. This is our secret society, of course. Huh? Secret society? Her words seemed too childish, and her childishness seemed too unexpected. If anything, I doubted her words. I thought perhaps it was some kind of metaphor, but no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't think of any other meaning for her words. She must have been telling it as it was. A secret society, though, no one does that stuff anymore. A secret society for mutants, that's unreasonable. Surely you mean unreasonably cool. I should mention, us mutants all belong to the preparatory school. There it is. This is the preparatory school's secret society. There we are. The preparatory school. Finally, something I could believe was true. I feel like she had left an important clue in her conversation. So I took Otonasha Ryuko's memory notebook out of my bag and looked for any memories about the preparation school. I found it. I remembered. The preparatory school is I don't really know. All I had written in my notebook was that it existed and nothing else. It couldn't be helped. I would have to ask about it straight up. Have the people from the preparatory school always known about this? Not always. If we imposed, then our secret society wouldn't be so secret anymore. A secret society must act as a secret society, and so must move as a secret society. But isn't it still imposing to create a base here? You can't keep it a secret, can you? I must insist you refrain from saying such strange things. The mono bear maid suddenly sounded angry. I've yet to hear anyone claim of our existence. Here in the basement beneath the West District, we have quietly and silently created our secret society. Do you understand? The West District? It is most suitable for the secret society. Due to the fact that the reserve students and staff are located in the West District, it means the regular staff do not visit anywhere near as much as they would otherwise. Furthermore, there is very little extracurricular activity here, and clubs meet at club rooms. And also, this is the basement of a club room belonging to a now inactive mystery study group. That makes it more opportune. So you've just taken over a club. That's all you've done. In the West District, beneath the abandoned club room belonging to an inactive mystery study group, there is a basement. And that's this place? I looked around again. There was a slight feeling of being trapped within such a wide hall, even though there were several doors throughout the hall's walls. There seemed to be another small room at the back of the hall. Across the hall diagonal to hall me, I saw the hall entrance to another hall passageway. It looked to be a fairly long one at that. I couldn't see the end of it, hall. Can such a large basement really be underground here? You don't believe me? The mono bear asked, suppressing her laughter. It seemed to be so much easier to not believe me. That's why it isn't depressing. Despair. As I said that, I could feel something in the depths of my heart become uneasy. What a foul word. Instead, I tried to shake off that word quickly and ask a question which had appeared in my head. Anyway, I understand that you're a secret society. I understand that this is your secret base, but why are you a secret society to begin with? The mono bear looked surprised before answering me in a straightforward manner. The parade. I muttered quietly as I flicked through my notebook. The parade is a demonstration from the reserve students who felt dissatisfied with Hope's Peak Academy's education system. Right? It is not a demonstration, it is a revolution. The girl corrected me with much force. It's so exciting. It's a revolution to change Hope's Peak Academy and the world. My heart's racing just thinking about it. A revolution? What did this person just say? And so, in order to complete our revolution, we must destroy Hope's Peak Academy's perfect little fantasy world. This school pushes for hope too much, all the while it torments and harasses its surroundings. If this continues, this school's super high school level hope will never be crushed, and... wait a second, I interrupted the mono bear maid. There are a few words I missed for some reason. What's super high school level hope? Oh, the mono bear maid raised her voice in exclamation. You're trying to test me with your words, aren't you? That's quite alright. I'll answer your question in a flawless manner. I wonder why she's taking so much time to talk about such an apparently important matter. I mean, if their society is so secret, then shouldn't they have to bother keeping secrets, right? Then they shouldn't have to bother keeping secrets, right? But with all this extra unnecessary speech she used, she seems very happy that someone was listening to her story. Super high school level hope is the absolute talent which surpasses all other talent, a genius among geniuses, the pinnacle of human evolution, so to speak. Yes, that is super high school level hope. Ta-da! That was my flawless explanation. Sorry, I stopped paying attention. Ryuko. Seriously? The monobear maid looked shocked. Anyway, the girl crossed her arms and after some groaning she continued, I'm ready now. It seems like she's ready now. The hope we use in super high school level hope's meaning is a little different from the everyday use of the word hope. What we call hope refers to a talent so great it can be called the hope of humanity. In other words, what we call super high school level hope is the owner of the most superior talent. So then, you mean an incredible genius, but talented in every way possible. A perfect superhuman. But isn't that cheating? Well, I suppose it does sound unbelievable. The monobear maid's tone changed to a mildly offended one, like the setting out of a make-believe story. Hope's Peak Academy's mascot has been given so much goddamn VIP treatment that they're on a platter outside of our reach. It'd be cheating by anyone's standards. Aren't you angry? I've not yet decided. Despite her words, the monobear maid's entire body seemed to be overcome by anger. We'll be going against Hope's Peak Academy's research and nurturing of super high school level hope, as it seems to have a large budget. Even so, its existence is hidden even to the student body. We do not know the details as to whether it is in fact a classified project, but it is entirely frustrating. I admit it, it's more frustrating than anything I've ever experienced. That research funding has been taken out of the preparatory school's precious budget. This school is literally stealing our money and our hope and devoting it entirely to super high school level hope. They're using it as a launchpad for their stupid little make-believe story, pardon me. Is that what this school calls hope? If it is for the sake of that ultimate talent, then I don't care what fuck me. Cannot talk today. If it's for the sake of that ultimate talent, they don't care what we have to say about it. Is it not worth to even think about those with no talent? Well. So the idea of Zuru Kamakura, perfectly talented, perfect superhuman, was that expanded upon in Danganronpa 2? I mean, I know it was mentioned explicitly that Hajime was a Zuru and was ultimate hope and everything. Was it explained what? I mean, I know they said in 2 that it was the research of talent and hope, and their ultimate pinnacle of that was Izuru. How much detail did they go into? Did they say that it was talented in every way possible? What even does that extend to and mean, realistically? Well, realistically, with big air quotes, meaning realistically for this universe here. Calm down a little. Or not. Stop joking the hell around. For God's sakes, just what is hope? The girl refused to even listen to me. Aren't people chosen by talent so goddamn great? And people who wait, aren't they great too? What bullshit. That's not fair. That's just elitist. It's fine if all us useless earthlings die just for the sake of those celestial few, isn't it? Right? I'm right, aren't I? Oi! But there was no longer any way for me to stop her onslaught of verbal abuse. Bullshit! That hope that they praise as being so mighty is covered in bullshit. Every little bit of hope in this school is covered in bullshit. Oh, incoming! The festival of shit is on its way. Shit, bullshit! Her words overflowed with nothing but hatred. Her hatred was not half-baked either. It was a hatred like a deadly poison. She seemed to be referring not just to super high school level hope, but also Hope's Peak Academy itself, and furthermore, the very concept of hope, etc. I wrote all this in my notebook, but soon my hand came to a stop. Huh? I returned my attention to the notebook. Originally, it is what I would say, considering this notebook fundamentally acts as my memory. Originally, I was suspended from school. It also mentioned super high school level hope, the parade, the preparatory school, and Hope's Peak Academy. Huh? But this has nothing to do with me. This has absolutely nothing to do with Otonashe Ryuku. I fucked up that pronunciation. Oh, this has nothing to do with me. I said so quietly I doubted it was audible to anyone. My words sounded so dry it was like a desert. It had seated itself deep inside me. What do I have to do? The Monobear maid took a deep breath and looked shyly to me. She looked like she had finally calmed down. Nothing. That's right, since this situation has nothing to do with me. So then I should quickly escape from this place that also has nothing to do with me. Hey, do you happen to know where the bathroom is? I need to excuse myself for a moment. Is it a number 1 or a number 2? Do I really need to announce myself before going? No, but you see, we only have one bathroom, so if someone were to use it for number 2, then it would have disastrous consequences for others who wish to make use of it. It's Die Hard. It's Dino Deboken. It's Die in Cries. I don't know what the fuck they're on about there. Is there only one bathroom in Die Hard? I don't remember that scene. I apologize. I don't remember the scene where John McClane's using the shitter and no one else can go to the bathroom because of it. I do not remember this scene from Die Hard. I apologize. It apparently has been too long since I remember the feet rubbing on the carpet thing. I don't remember the one bathroom. Did Ellis die in a bathroom? No. I'm getting sidetracked by thinking about Die Hard, sorry. Oh, okay. For now, I'll just go to the bathroom, I said, and began to run like I was escaping. Well, to put it more exactly, I was running while actually planning to escape. More importantly, there was no real sense for me to be in this place because it had nothing to do with me. It's at the end of the hall. Are you fine without a map? The Monobear maid called out as I ran away. The end of the hall. As I heard her, I could see the end of the hall growing closer and closer. I fled to the other side of the hall, between the Monobear heads who were still at their desks. I didn't even bother to glance at me. Their eyes were still plastered to the monitors in front of them. Just what is it they're so engrossed in? I knew it had nothing to do with me, but curiosity had taken over my otherwise calm appearance, so I looked back. It was completely black. Every monitor was a pitch black. None had a single image projecting on it. It'll start again soon, so the Monobear head sitting in front of me said in monotone. Phase 1 has just ended. Phase 2 is now beginning. Interrupting the robotic words being spoken in unison, the monitors all lit up. Hope's Peak Academy presents Young People. Test the true extent of your hope to win. You've all proved yourselves to be more talented than anyone else. For your own hope, you must kill more than anyone else has. The final exam of mutual killing has now begun. Phase 2. More mutual killing, cool. It used a lot of flashing words, taking up the full screen. Even the local television stations refuse to use it in such an extent nowadays. What the heck? Such a question appeared in my head for a moment, but it was truly only for a moment. The image on the screen changed. It changed to red. It was almost like each monitor had been completely covered in bright red cellophane. I looked closely, and in the red I saw something wriggle. What seemed to be a person, I suppose. In the rooms of red, the walls and floor were dyed crimson. I couldn't make out distinct features, but a body covered in red rising from the ground, wriggling and writhing like a worm. The camera captured in all its bird-eye view. At first I thought it was some sort of avant-garde dance or obscure video art, but I soon realized that this was not the case. Immediately afterward, the stumbling person wandered to both sides of the screen. The clothing he wore were almost completely covered in blood. Even so, I could tell it was a uniform from Hope's Peak Academy. As the man dragged a foldable chair loosely behind him, someone was begging on his hands and feet before him. The man passed the foldable chair to his other hand and swung it up. When it was over the top of his head, he swung down and... I couldn't grasp what just happened. I just continued to stare at the monitor, dumbfounded. Is this footage of the mutual killing? The school committee killing each other? Is that what this is? They're just showing that to the preparatory students? I mean, that would do it, but... The foldable chair was swung down an innumerable amount of times. He continued to swing it down on the groveling man without hesitation. The camera's angle changed and showed the face of a man swinging the chair close up. He seemed to be shouting something over and over again. Turn up the sound. The Monobear head sitting in front of me turned up the volume on his monitor. I could hear his yells from the monitor. His voice only grew louder and became a heart-wrenching scream. I don't want to die! Apart from the anguished cries, I could hear another sound ringing out. Squelch. Splat. It sounded like yoga and cartilage being mashed together. Every time the man swung down the chair, a sound would ring out. I'm not... Well, I can't do squishy sounds. Not bad. It's not my fault. Sorry. I'm not bad. At that point, the foldable chair broke. but the boy groveling in front of him was long past broken. His head was beyond recognition, instead looking like a squashed tomato someone had dropped. Around it was a mixture of blood and brain fluid. I was beyond the ability to adequately communicate my level of horror. In the monitor, the skull was split open and the corpse was spilling out its fluids. I couldn't look away from the body. I couldn't even move at all. I stared at the monitor, stunned and totally dumbfounded. That's enough, the man in the monitor said to himself. He shook and trembled. I've already killed those other two. That should be enough. The boy's words were interrupted by a sound of thick glass breaking. Before he could come to his senses, another man stood behind him with a bottle in his hand. Without warning, the newcomer beat the first man down with a single blow aimed at his head. As the man clutched desperately at his face with both hands, he roared out like a wounded animal. Suddenly, with some abruptness, he ran from the room, thrashing in agony. Wait! The ambusher tailed after him with unsteady steps. The image on the screen once again changed. Instead, it now showed a corridor. In the corridor was a running man whose face was drenched in blood. Small pieces of glass had embedded themselves into his eyes and caused them to bleed. Save me from the nothing. Sorry, totally inappropriate. He screamed out in a slurred voice. His mouth seemed to open and morph into the shape of a grin, but of course, that was not the case. His lips were torn open and he was no longer able to close them. Standing in front of him was a trembling girl. The girl stood alone in the gloomy corridor, holding a cleaver tightly in her hands. Her creepy appearance filled even me with fear. However, the man running didn't even see her. As he screamed in pain, he ran towards her. As the girl readied herself into a defensive position, she thrusted her cleaver up. At that moment, the boy swung down his head. Squelch. The cleaver sunk into his skull on impact. The shards of glass stuck in his eyes were thrown out. The man continued to run forwards for a few steps before finally collapsing. As the girl's entire body shook and trembled violently, she patiently stared at the corpse. I don't want to die. I had to. The volume on the monitor wavered with her trembling voice. Behind her, I could see the figure of another high school student with an iron pipe, his hand sneaking towards her. I finally managed to look away. It was nothing but a movie made in bad taste. In ridiculously bad taste. Yeah, just a movie. This was some sort of video the reserve students had made, right? In that case, it was really scary. More than just scary, it was bursting with realism. The dead people were an image that could be associated with cold, which in turn could be associated easily with the illusion of death. The warm blood seeping from the bodies of those dead is incomparable to the heat emitted from their bodies during the time of their life. It fogged up the lens on the camera with the humidity. It was like an immense heat that followed death. But just what on earth is going on? It's just so insignificant, isn't it? Much to my surprise, one of the monobear heads sitting in front of me, still staring at a monitor, asked me, "This is hope? This thing is hope?" The boy murmured, sounding honestly uninterested. He spoke, sounding completely immersed in despair. At some time in their life, everyone will come to a point where they think only of themselves. And so, it's mutual killing. Up until this point, people would say it's important to have hope, and so they'll do anything to protect it. People like us have abandoned that nasty habit. After all, it's just an insignificant little thing. He seemed irritated at his own words. His irritation only became more apparent as he spoke. Suddenly, he began to breathe heavily. How long have you been watching this? Always? Not always. We've only seen it 5,818 times. Did he say 5,818 times? Huh? I felt sweat run down my already soaked back. No matter how many times someone could say this video was fake, it continued to replay through my head. Despite only watching it once, my brain seemed inclined to believe it was real. This is really something I shouldn't get myself involved in. I have to escape right now. I raised my line of sight up until I met someone else's eyes. On the other side of the hall, the monobear maid looked at me with patient eyes. She waved with her hand. I only felt more tempted to run away. I felt chills rise up through my spine, as if trying to run from the video that tormented my mind. I dived into the passage at the back of the hall. The sound of my footsteps echoed through the dark corridor. Once again, the walls, floor, and ceiling were all covered in concrete. Concrete, 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 concrete. This passageway was covered in concrete too. It didn't seem wide enough for more than one adult to fit in. I felt an overwhelming sense of claustrophobia. The only light I saw was dim, concealed lighting that illuminated my feet. The space was overcome by a strange atmosphere. I ran down the passageway, and suddenly I realized I had no idea why I was running down a passageway. I had not an idea, while I was running down a passageway. Anxiety took hold of me. I continued to run down this endless passageway for what felt like a lifetime for me. As I ran through the passageway, all that appeared in my mind was just how much I wanted to get out. My feet suddenly stopped moving. In front of me, another concrete wall stood in my way. It seemed like I reached a dead end. To both my left and right were bare concrete walls. But on the concrete wall in front of me, I saw a door leading to another small passageway. Is this the exit? Holding that belief in my heart, I reached out to the door with my hands. It didn't need a key or anything. The door opened easily. I peeked behind it with high hopes. I felt a bout of deja vu. Just more concrete. It was a small room with walls, floor, and ceiling, all covered in concrete. But at the back of the room was a bizarre spectacle. 2 parallel sets of iron bars. A jail cell? I walked forward carefully and stood in front of the bar gate to my right first. On the other side of the bars floated a dark black mist. A chilly, cool, and ominous air drifted out from the darkness. I timidly tried to look at the other side of the gate. Who's there? A voice called out from inside the darkness. My heart jumped in shock. Who's there? I heard the hoarse voice of an old man. He sounded like he was being overly cautious of something awful. What do you mean? My shaking voice bounced off the walls. From the back of the cell, a shadowed silhouette appeared. They remained seated in a chair with their head hanging down as if they were asleep. Are you okay, Buster Wolf? Even so, the person showed no sign of hearing me. I tilted my head to the side. It's no use anymore. The voice did not come from the cell in front of me as I expected, but instead, the cell next to it. He hasn't been responding since yesterday. Don't you know it's useless? Useless? What's useless? I once again looked at the cell in front of me. My eyes finally adjusted to the darkness. The face looking downward, blanketed in darkness, slowly becoming more clear. The face had lost its vitality. His surprisingly long, dark red tongue lolled out of his mouth sloppily. I knew at first glance. He wasn't sleeping. He was dead. I screamed as I stepped back and subsequently ended up landing on the floor after misjudging my footing. It seemed so real. The possibility of the corpse before me being fake hadn't come to my mind at all. The situation had become more scary than anything I had ever experienced in my recollection. Shivers ran through my body so much it felt like Shivers ran through my body so much I felt almost like it hurt. Is he dead? He's dead. The cold air passed through my lips and I felt unable to breathe. I quickly tried to gulp down a lungful of air with a heavy sob. It was at that point when I heard the old man voice sounding surprised. Why is it you're so panicked? You're a comrade of those people, right? I flicked through Otanashe Ryuko's memory notebook with trembling hands. I almost immediately recalled the memory of the reserve students. Of course not. Please don't lump me together with these people wearing strange masks. So, you're not wearing a mask. What a strange question. Can't you tell by looking? I stood up, stumbling unsteadily like a newborn deer. I walked clumsily in front of the adjacent cell where I heard the man's voice. I could see the figure of a man hunched over on a chair. I can't see. The old man raised his head. The area where his eyes should have been on his wrinkled face, I saw 2 dark indents instead. It wasn't covered by shadows. There was fine black stitching, like it had been done by a sewing machine. Blood oozed from the stitches and dried within the yarn. It had all come together in a pitch-black mass, preventing the man from opening his eyelids. I felt a severe bout of nausea as my stomach threatened to empty itself. I covered my mouth with my hands quickly. You seem surprised seeing this. You really aren't with them. The old man's voice suddenly changed to a pleading tone. Please, can't you help me? Help me escape from this place. I couldn't thank you enough, so I'm begging you. Because of the skin around the desperately begging man's eyes, it was almost impossible to discern his expression. What happened? I asked a simple question with a sob. They locked us in separate cells. They wouldn't kill whoever they broke the jaw of. That's what they said. I imagine this is like who's left at the steering committee. They wouldn't kill whoever they broke the jaw of? We cheered each other on at first, but the cheering was too much to bear. Well, we were scared. If only we thought of betraying them earlier. There wasn't a choice. So... The old man's voice somehow went even lower. So... They broke my jaw. He faced the other set of iron bars. The dead body from the other cell wandered through the back of my mind. I wondered briefly why I had not forgotten about it yet. Hey, why don't we make a deal? Eh? The old man's voice sounded like he was begging once more. He suddenly started to talk again. If it's about what I know, then we should talk. You came to hear about it, right? In exchange, you can help me escape from here. How does that sound? Okay, I answered somewhat automatically and instantly regretted doing so. It really is better to be the one who isn't involved. Even after saying I'd help him escape, I wasn't sure how to do it. More and more regret began to pile up, but even so, the man with ruined eyes story had already begun a long time ago. The person from the preparatory school had tried to find out from me about a person's location. They called him Kamakura Izuru. For the time being, I decided it would be for the best to listen to the old man's story. Either way, it didn't seem like I had any real choice. I'd have time to think about it after the story. I do not know where they found out, but they knew for a fact that we were hiding Kamakura. If they found out where he is, they'd be a heartbeat away from true power. True power. I felt my jaw tightly shut at such a cruel sound. Their goal is to crush this school. Using the existence of Kamakura Izuru, they'll overthrow Hope Speak Academy from its very foundations. Did you say crush? I suddenly cried out. That's too much. If Hope Speak Academy is crushed, I won't be able to see Matsuda-kun anymore. Yep, she's still thinking about what's important to her. So if you have to do something and find a way to stop the preparatory school, but what can I do? If this keeps up, we'll be handing Kamakura to the preparatory school on a silver platter, and there's no mistaking, it'll be the end of Hope Speaks Academy. Even if you say that, the old school building, Kamakura Izuru's there. Oh, okay. It's fitting, because that's where Danganronpa 1 is. Please wait. I ended the conversation prematurely with an interruption. Quickly, I wrote in Otanashi Ryuko's memory notebook. Old school building. But then... Huh? I suddenly felt an attack of dizziness. I struggled to stay upright. What's happening? Until just a short time ago, we used to have a large amount of guards there. Officially speaking, before the demolition, we can no longer do that due to the danger. But that's not the real reason. In truth, it's because that's where we're hiding Kamakura Izuru. As I listened to his story distractedly, it happened again. I felt a dizziness beyond anything I could adequately convey. My vision was becoming a blur. As I stumbled, I laid my hand on the bars in front of me to steady myself. Up until now, everything I've said, I knew the old man speaking was right in front of me, yet it felt like he was in the far distance. Is the whole story as far as I know. Could you free me now? His voice sounded almost like it was being muffled. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it ringing loudly in the back of my ears. Oi, what's the matter? Hurry up. The area around my eyes has been unbearably hot for a while now. I want to go to a doctor. Oi, did you hear me? I didn't. The beating in my ears was only growing louder. It completely drowned out all other sounds. I couldn't hear anything anymore. I shouldn't be able to hear anything anymore. And yet, I could hear a single, eerie laugh. At the same time, I felt a presence behind me. A disgusting presence. Like it was like having uncomfortably warm air being blown onto the back of my neck. Sensing it, my body began to shake and tremble. I couldn't say anything, like I was paralyzed. The laugh grew louder and louder. It was almost like it was mocking me. What's so funny? Even the older man's shouts sounded like they taunted me. The voice became more intense. Why are you laughing? What's so funny? The old man shouted, his voice filled with uneasiness. He sounded angry and especially hoarse as he failed to grasp what was happening. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up! The laughing came to a halt. What a lovely face you're making. The voice was directed to the old man. But I said, you won't ever escape. Your face will only become more despair-induced, you know? The old man's face was filled with emotion. For a moment it flashed white. His reaction seemed impossibly odd. The laughing grew louder again. I know I didn't know near enough. The laugh bounced off the concrete around the room, each echo overlaying another. Like a body with no soul, I stood still, dizzily swaying. The life was deprived from my entire body, making even small movements impossible. I couldn't even ignore the voices. I only tried to determine which was which. My consciousness reached its limit. Light, sound, and color had all disappeared at once. The scene before me twisted askewed, like painting dripping onto water. The old man on the other side of the iron bars also became blurred at the border of my vision. What? As I watched the distorting worlds in front of me, I murmured to myself, what is this? Soon the world would melt into the puddle of colors, each color hardened into different shades. The colors then started to intermingle once again. The world changed to another. Like a scene with a flowing river, I swayed with the current, and everything in front of me passed me by. Behind me was a giant open door. An avalanche of monobear heads poured out of it. Screams echoed from the direction of the cell. A puddle of bright red water appeared at my feet. I ran from it in my trance. Then, darkness. And a really big gap. I'm going to take a quick second to... Lemon cordial. So, I mean, I have an idea of what just happened there. Relates to one of my earlier theories. And relates to why Ryuko's here in the first place. You could probably work out what it is in terms of what the steering committee person told us. And if not, I'm sure it'll become clear. But hey, that's my assumption for the time being, that we found out that information. The moment I opened my eyes, I found myself in a bright white room. It felt like I had reborn. I, the new, reborn Ryuko Otonashi, woke up with a renewed sense of vigor as I stretched my body out, getting out of bed. Turning my gaze to the window, the sun's light filled the white room with its brilliant light from between the curtains, signifying the morning's rays. It appears that I fell asleep at some point. Being forgetful, I couldn't even remember the time I fell asleep. I don't remember while I'm asleep. I don't remember me being asleep. It's fucking... Apparently people do, or something. I don't even fucking understand it. At that moment, I felt light rush in from the back of my eyes. An image conceived itself within my head. Underground facility, preparatory department, Monokuma, just straight up Monokuma now. A sudden flashback, definitely an unfamiliar experience. Could this be my memory? I immediately ran through my itching conscious. I felt like I could remember something, but at the same time, I couldn't remember it. It came off like a natural sensation, yet at the same time, I was embraced with bewilderment. What is this? What happened to me? Frightened with puzzlement and unsettlement, I shakily looked around the room. Doing so, I found my backpack sitting by my pillow. I hurriedly rummaged through it, and as I thought, there it was. The Ryuko Otonashi notebook. Memory notebook. First things first, I need to remember where I am. I paged through the notebook to see if there's anything I could recall about this room. This is the neurology laboratory. Thank goodness. Upon remembering that, I let out a sigh of relief. Wait, but where's Matsuda-kun? Right away, I looked around the room once more, but I couldn't catch sight of his appearance anywhere. Matsuda-kun. As I looked toward my notebook, I remembered something important. Speaking of him, I haven't received treatment from him for a while. Now I know why my head's been all funky lately. That's so I need to get treatment from Matsuda-kun as soon as possible. The moment I was enveloped by that impatience, something interrupted. Rustle, rustle. I heard a strange sound. It sounded like coming from under the bed I was sitting on. I ran through my itchy conscious once again. Someone's voice repeated itself in my head. Why are you under my bed? Mental concentration for facing irritation. Once I remembered that conversation, this time I energetically peeked under the bed. Matsuda-kun? Then our eyes met. I met eyes with the individual lurking under the bed. but returning my gaze was an unfamiliar girl. Who are you? Without thinking, I brought out that question. The girl, now on her back, shot back with a curt response. Do you think you could move from there? You're in my way. Sure. Puzzled, I stepped away as the girl immediately crawled out from under the bed. She got up with a short grunt and began brushing the dust off her body. Inadvertently, my eyes stopped at her hands. The black leather gloves that neatly wrapped around her skin were quite impressive, but possibly finding my stare uncomfortable, she quickly moved her hands behind her, as if to hide them. Is this Junko again? I can't think of anyone else who has black leather gloves. Are they purple or black? I'm not even sure. Looks like the rumors were true. Huh? Without any preface whatsoever, she suddenly began speaking to me. Well, what do you mean? Memory impairment, right? I heard you're in treatment. Hearing that, once again my brain was assaulted by itchiness. Without thinking, I sat down onto my bed. The girl appeared to give me a dubious look. Trying to ignore the itchiness in my head, I asked her, Are you someone I know? Kyoko Kirigiri! Woo! Kyoko, translations are weird. Of class 78. The response was a name I've never heard of. Right away, I opened my notebook and searched for any kind of mention, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So, she isn't someone I know. The details of your memory impairment were kept low-key in order to prevent your own confusion. That was your intention, wasn't it? Or possibly Yasuke Matsuda's intention as well. In face of her taking control of this interrogation, I was lost in bewilderment. Huh? Well, what are you talking about? I see. So you don't remember that either. Wait, you know Matsuda-kun? Upon those words, she became quiet. She diverted her eyes as well, only making her look more suspicious. Without thinking, I approached her. Hey, you know him, right? If you know him, then please tell me. Where's Matsuda-kun? I desperately asked her. After all, he's all that's important to me. I want to know, and I have to know, as long as it's Matsuda-kun. Unfortunately, I don't know either. Matsuda-kun grew further away from my reach. Failing to hide my disappointment, my face fell into dismay. The girl absent-mindedly gazed towards the window while murmuring, I'm searching for Yasuke Matsuda as well. There's something I need to confirm with him. Something you need to confirm with Matsuda-kun? The moment I responded, she returned her gaze towards me. She examined me as if looking for something. I might as well confirm something with you as well. Earlier, you peeked under the bed while calling it Yasuke Matsuda's name, right? Was that because you knew that was something he'd normally do? Huh? Well, what? The sudden interrogation flustered me, and the girl continued to corner me. You'd better off answering honestly. Lying will only make this conversation more difficult. It's not like I need to lie about, then you can answer honestly, right? I timidly gave in to her pushing words. Yeah, I knew. Matsuda-kun said that when he gets annoyed, he has a habit of undergoing mental concentration under a bed and falling asleep. But what does it have to do with anything? Mental concentration, An eerie smile crept up Kirigiri-san's face. It seemed like she was making fun of Matsuda-kun, so without thinking I was about to... Well, it must have been a lie, though. Huh? Yasuke Matsuda must have a precise goal in mind crawling under that bed, just like how I was earlier. While I was still talking to her, Kirigiri-san crouched down to the bed and slowly stepped towards me. She finally stopped right in front of me and spoke while looking downwards. Could you move? Huh? Oh, okay. Confused, I got off the bed, and the girl put her hands under the dormant bedsheets and threw them up in one motion. The bedsheets gently floated into the air. You can see it, right? Kirigiri-san pointed under the bed. I walked over to her side and squat down, peeking under the bed. The one portion of the floor under the bed seemed to be sticking out unnaturally. There seemed to be a 50 by 50 space that led into darkness. A hidden room, not just a simple one either. It's about the size of a storehouse. Storehouse? Probably to store a corpse. Huh? While I was completely taken aback, Kirigiri-san continued to speak in an indifferent manner. There is a corpse hidden under here. Actually, 2 corpses. They appear to be 2 missing members of the committee board. He didn't put the dude from the survivor of the student council there? The 2 steering committee people are under the bed? I mean, I know he has to hide them to protect Junko, but what about himself and the person that he killed? Well, what are you saying? As blood rushed to my face, I unwittingly shouted. Without looking towards me, she continued to speak with a cool face. It was a joke. Joke? Corpses typically begin rotting within 5 degrees Celsius. If there was a corpse here, it would have already been thoroughly decayed. Hey, do you know what bodies actually go through when decaying? Sulfur-carrying proteins throughout your body began decomposing, releasing hydrogen sulfide, creating a decaying odor strong enough that it can't be moved with just washing. And it doesn't just smell bad. The decaying gas increases pressure throughout the body, changing the muscles completely. Eyeballs would pop out from swelling like ping pong balls. The tongue and lips would enlarge, and even the ends of arms and legs would bulge out. The skin would then turn black and become nearly unrecognizable from its living counterpart. There's no way something like that would be around here. This doesn't sound like the way that Kyoko would talk. From making a joke or giving a really in-depth description like this, just out of nowhere. I mean, she would totally describe something like that if it was relevant, but... I mean, maybe it is, but the idea of her just saying stuff as a joke is interesting. Unless she's just being just like, oh, I'll tell you it's a joke so you don't actually check. Just hearing that caused something sour to rise up, and instantly I covered my mouth. I see. It was just a joke. Although I was completely joking. As if to further pursue me, she once again returned that stern gaze towards me. In here is a jersey as black as the interior, along with a pair of shoes of the same color. Most likely they were planned to be washed, but there are still some traces of blood remaining. A flat car easily capable of transporting a body is located here as well. So what are you trying to say? What I'm saying is that Yasuke Matsuda was involved with the murder of the 2 missing committee board members. At that moment, a shiver strong enough to make my body jump assaulted me, my teeth shaking. I desperately shot back. But what are you saying? There's no way that Matsuda-kun would murder someone. No one said anything about him killing anyone. All I'm saying is he was involved with the murder. Her thin, coloured pupils appeared to shine from the sunlight momentarily. Although, what about the murder of the student council president? I doubt he was just simply involved with that. There it is. Huh? Last night, super high school level student council president Soshin Murasame's corpse was found, which was believed to be suicide. But without a doubt, that was definitely a murder. I wasn't able to see the end of this conversation, but even so, I instinctively had a bad feeling about it. The rate of the thumps in my chest raised to alarming heights. My breathing became ragged and sweat began pouring all over my body, and the blood vessels in my forehead began to violently pulse. Most likely, Yasuke Matsuda killed Soshin Murasame, with pauses in those words for some reason. I could hear the sounds of the pillars supporting my stability crashing as they fell. An inconceivable massive uneasiness developed inside me. The strings of thought telling me to argue back jumbled together into a mess, stopping me from forming them into words. Kirigiri-san continued to stare at me with those eyes, so calm and collected, almost to the point where it pissed me off. Those eyes had no emotion. They were purely observing me. Nothing makes sense anymore. My messed up head, my tangled up thoughts, the overwhelming uneasiness, and those cold, piercing eyes attacking me all at once as I sunk into a bottomless swamp. While sinking, I desperately struggled and screamed out. This has nothing to do with me. I've had enough. I'll forget about this. If I just forget about it, everything will return to like it was before. This isn't just an attempt to escape. Rather, it's a battle. A battle to fight off anyone that isn't Matsuda-kun out of my world. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me. Before long, in harmony with the explosive beating in my chest, my voice became a scream. Nothing to do with me! Nothing to do with me! As I continued to frantically shout out, the boiling heat from the bottom of my stomach bubbled up like magma. This has nothing to do with me! And it really exploded. At the same time as my exclamation, the door behind Kirigiri-san shattered. Small shards of glass and wood fluttered through the door, as the door as if made out of paper fell to the floor. The sound of destruction then finally reverberated around the laboratory like a storm. I couldn't believe it, but I did that. Me! While looking at the spectacle past, Kirigiri-san turned head. This is my true power? I, Ryuko Otonashi, felt this fearsome ability waken inside me. When Kyuko Kirigiri stepped into the neurology laboratory, that girl was already lying down on the bed. She heard rumors about that girl. Supposedly she suffered from a memory impairment and had been undergoing treatment in this laboratory. Seems they were true. But enough of that. More importantly, Matsuda-san doesn't seem to be here. Well, not like I was expecting him to be. Have we just gone back in time and switched to Kyoko's perspective? What the hell? Having already anticipated that, she changed gears and began investigating the room. Due to Mitsuda's absence, she was free to do as she pleased. With that, she faced the girl lying in bed. I should probably be careful not to wake her up. She wanted to avoid any unnecessary annoyances. She then began to cautiously examine around the room. After getting a good look around the room, she then proceeded to walk next to the bed. As I thought, something suspicious. That impression was not aimed towards the girl lying in the bed, rather it was towards the bed itself. If she was curious, the natural thing to do would be to investigate the bed. As if a matter of fact, she began searching around the bed. Then, looking at the floor hidden under the bed sheets, she found a storehouse. Kyoko, detecting the black jersey and shoes along with a simple pushcart casually tossed in there, soon developed a conclusion. Yasuke Matsuda was involved with the murders of the committee board members. The only ones who recognized this were Kyoko and her client, the president of the school grounds. Furthermore, with even the corpses disappearing and hardly any decisive evidence for this case, she had all the more reason to continue to repeat her straightforward investigation. And she found a clue in an unexpected location for that very case. She didn't think Yasuke Matsuda would have been involved in this. But if that was the case, he might know where the remaining 2 committee board members have gone off to. Ignoring Kyoko's warnings, the 4 committee board members who hid their whereabouts have now all become missing. But it seems that finally those whereabouts can be revealed. Whether or not it would be too late or not was a different story, but that wasn't important. Whether or not they help her become sacrifices didn't matter. Her role was exposed to hidden truth as a detective, and those were her true feelings. But who would have thought that those 2 cases were connected? The reason she came here wasn't even related to the committee board members in the first place. She was here to investigate the case of the corpse of Soshun Murasama found in the teaching staff facility. According to the school doctor, it seems that the last person to meet with Murasama was Yasuke Matsuda. And not only that, after that meeting, he somehow disappeared to somewhere, hiding his whereabouts. As Kyoko thought, if Murasame's death was due to murder, then Yasuke Matsuda was definitely suspicious. If that's the case, then why did he murder Soshun Murasame? In order to find that motive, Kyoko came to his main headquarters, this laboratory. But saying that Yasuke Matsuda wasn't just involved with Murasame's case, but the committee boards as well, saying that he was the center of these 2 cases wouldn't be too far off the mark. To be involved with 2 cases at the same time like this, there was no way this could be a coincidence. If so, then what is his goal? What does he know? What is he hiding? While she was going through her thoughts under the bed, unexpectedly a sound could be heard from above the bed. It looked like the girl had woke up. If so, it might be a good idea to ask her a few things. Chances are, it would be pretty unlikely for someone undergoing Yasuke Matsuda's medical treatment to just be a bystander. It might end up forcing her to realize the painful reality, but for the sake of revealing the hidden truth, there was no other choice. Again, those were her true feelings. There wasn't much time left either. Kyoko was struck with impatience close to frustration. If she didn't hurry, it may become too late to find the clues she needed. Yasuke Matsuda may never come back. That was her intuition, but it wasn't just simply intuition. It was the intuition of the Kirigiri family detectives. That intuition drew her forward. It drove her to find Matsuda's whereabouts as soon as possible. It wasn't like she was worried for his sake. It was only that she had to fulfill her duty as a detective to complete her accepted request. It was to ascertain the whereabouts of Azuru Kamakura. Why? Because she was a detective. So then, in order to fulfill her duty as a detective, she began her interrogation towards the girl. I might as well confirm something with you as well. With that starting statement, she then proceeded to question the girl on sensitive matters in order to corner her. Then, as she observed her response, she developed a conclusion. This girl doesn't know anything. The girl was falling into mass confusion, and her state showed that it wasn't an act. And from what I could see of her forgetfulness, there was no sign that she couldn't have been an accomplice. In other words, any further conversation with her wouldn't reveal any more results. Rather than becoming discouraged, Kyoko thought of what would be the best course of action. But before handling that, there was something else she had to deal with. This has nothing to do with me! The sudden shriek that seemed to pierce her eardrums. Then at the same time, the sound of something breaking roared behind her. Instinctively turning around, the door's glass fragments scattered through the air. Then, in the center of all that, a man's appearance revealed itself. The man looked towards Kyoko, and a hideous, sinister smile crept up to his face, resembling a death god looking to cast an ill omen. Another giant blank page. Another break for me having my lemon cordial. So, yeah, obviously Ryuko's power isn't to just make shit explode. But shit is most definitely happening. Again, we know that Matsuda is protecting Junko at all costs. That's why hiding the bodies of the people, hiding everything related to them, and killing Murasame. But the way that conversation went in the last chapter, it doesn't sound like that he wants Junko's plan to work, but he can't help himself. And the way Junko was talking is just like, Matsuda has a way to put everything that Junko's doing to a stop. The way that she was talking sounds like that's the case. And it sounds like he doesn't want her to succeed, but he's driven to help her succeed because of Junko's effect on people and making them dedicated to her. While watching my scream shatter the door of the laboratory, I was awakened to my surprising ability. The tale of the little girl being cornered, suddenly awaking to her power and seeking revenge. I felt like I saw something like that in a movie. But never mind that. More importantly, I have to do something to stop my power from going berserk. I understand. There is only one method to stop this rampage. And that's Matsuda-kun! Other than Matsuda-kun examining my messed up head, there is no other secret technique to stop this overflow of power. Anyway, I have to hurry. If I don't do something about this soon, something horrible will happen. That's why in order to meet Matsuda-kun, I'm going to have to use this uncontrollable power just one more time. Determined, I turned my gaze towards the wreckage and glared at the back of Kirigiri-san's head. I then focused all my concentration towards her head and locked on, letting out all of my power with a scream. Burst! Don't kill Kyoko. Doing so, the girl's head didn't burst into pieces like a watermelon at all. That's what your plan was? Jesus Christ, Ryuko. What the hell? As I looked at Kirigiri-san's perfectly unchanged normal head, I tilted my head as I noticed someone's shadow standing in the back. So you really were over here. It was a low, threatening voice. The man with jet black uniform noisily stepped onto the wreckage of the overturned door while his just as jet black hair swayed back and forth. His slim frame gave off a feeling of toughness, like a well-strung wire, and he was quite tall as well. Too good for knocking? Kirigiri-san warily chose her words, attracting his attention. Mind your own business. Alright, Madarai, let's fucking go. While snapping back with his sharp words, he shifted his gaze alternately between Kirigiri-san and I with his thin, reptile-like eyes. The moment I saw his eyes, the itchiness began to spring back into my head. Right away, I dropped my gaze to Ryuko Otonashi's memory notebook, and then I remembered. That's right, the pitch-black man's name was Ashiki Madarai. Wait, but why? After all, he's gotten beaten so many times in front of me now. First, when he got crushed under a bookcase. Second, when he was assaulted by the black shadow known as Super High School Level Despair. Third, when he was confronted by Mikuro Ikusaba right in this neurology laboratory. Even with all of that, just why? Are you surprised I'm unwounded? Successfully reading my thoughts, Madarai stretched out his arms to an unsettlingly length and smiled. The smile resembled a crescent moon, making it almost like a mask. I've said it before, haven't I? I'm immortal. As if complying with his words, the glass at his feet chimed. I just wanted to see Matsuda-kun, pardon me. But all I get are these people speaking nonsense surrounding me. Trying to get anything out of that girl is futile. Who are you? Madarai faced Kirigiri-san with a cold stare that would have frozen a normal person. But Kirigiri-san looked right back at him and shook it off like it was nothing, and continued speaking indifferently. You were originally investigating the disappearance of the student council, correct? Madarai raised his eyebrows, surprised. You know who I am. I just overheard a few things. Kirigiri-san raised her chin, and after a few moments continued to speak. But I know that you are not immortal, at least. After all, your ability isn't all-powerful. It definitely has its limits. Isn't that right, Hope's Peak Academy Student Council member, Super High School Level bodyguard son? That's something only the Student Council would know. Where the hell did you ever hear something like that? Grind. There was a peculiar sound coming from the back of Madarai's mouth. If your ears are that good, then you should probably know something about this. Come on, tell me, who's the guy behind Hope's Peak Academy history's largest worst incident? Where's the bastard that killed the student council? Haven't you been listening? Asking is pointless. Of course, along with that girl over there, I don't know anything about that. No, that's a lie. What makes you think that? My intuition. Do I need a reason other than that? When you're going up against Kyoko, yes. After saying that, Madara's intimidating presence grew stronger. The glass under his feet continued to shatter from his force as he stepped forward, and naturally, I began to step back. Hey. While being cautious of Madara, Kirigiri-san faced me and spoke. Judging from the way he's talking, you've driven him off multiple times, haven't you? You shouldn't expect too much from me. I weakly turned my head towards her. I don't really remember, but every incident was just a coincidence. And it looks like he's immortal too. While speaking, I carefully glanced towards Madara, and in return he glared at me with his sharp eyes. Panicking, I quickly averted my gaze while, it's impossible! At least we can take advantage of our numbers, like one of us becoming the decoy and the others running away. That's the only way. I attempted to casually suggest her to become a decoy. I wasn't sure if she successfully took in my meaning. So what are you going to do? Behave and fess up? Or should I beat you till you talk? Do you think you could hurry up and make your mind? Madara flipped his greasy, long hair while asking. Like I said, I really don't know anything. We don't know anything. In contrast to my stuttering words, Kirigiri-san confidently shot back. She had almost nothing to do with the situation, but her resolve didn't once seem to waver. Honestly, it was almost like she was being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. Well, she must have had her reasons, but I would like it if I didn't have to get dragged into this. Seems like you won't budge. As his voice grew more threatening as he mumbled, he grew a silent smile. Looks like I have no choice then. I'll use my true power. I'll tell you right now, this is unlike anything you've seen so far. It's a pain, but I'll deal with you in one go. He then started to sway his slender body left and right. Right at that moment, a mysterious sensation invaded my body. As if I was dizzy, my vision began to blur. Madara's appearance in front of me seemed to split into two. But the only thing splitting in two was Madara. The rest of the world remaining like always. Hey, there it is. Well, what? No matter how many times I blinked, the scene in front of me didn't change. My eyes weren't fooling me. There really were two Madaras in front of me. I'll introduce myself once more. In harmony, they both spoke at the same time. My name is Yoshiki Madara. My name is Goshiki Madara. Oh, we got an explanation here? Okay, this is kind of like a play on words, with Yoshiki Madara's name being the one, Yoshiki Madara's name uses the character for the number 1, while Yoshiki and Goshiki uses the characters for 4 and 5, respectively. By the way, Yoshiki's name might be Yonshiki due to certain Japanese language tendencies, but I'm not too sure. Thanks, translation person. Okay, so they're literally numbered. The Madaras are literally numbered. So, ni, ich, ni, san. So, ni and san. So, Nishiki and Nanshiki, with slight changes in that they're two of them that were killed earlier. Well, actually, no, we've gone up against 3. Crushed by a bookcase, killed by someone, killed by Mukuro. Assuming all of them died, although I don't know if the one that was crushed by the shelves actually died or has just run away somewhere. So yeah, but those are the first 3, and then we've got Yoshiki and Goshiki, Ichni, Sanji, Yoko. I don't remember the rest of my Japanese counting to count how many more there's going to be. The slim, long bodies of the... I will admit the idea of, like, a bunch of these motherfuckers, and they're literally numbered in their names, that's pretty clever. The slim, long bodies of the left Madara and the right Madara seem to entangle around each other. The scene was creepy enough to send shivers up my spine. You really look just like one. What I heard was true, it seems. Kirigiri-san's cautious words sounded out once again. Like I said, where the hell did you hear about those things? Both of them. Madara's creepy voices once again came out in harmony. The Madara brothers. The octuplets from Ashiki Madara to Yashiki Madara. Yara in this case being the character for 8. So there's 8 of the motherfuckers. Wow, okay. Holy shit. Those who know about them refer to them as super high school level multiple birth siblings. Due to effectively utilizing their mutual understanding, their teamwork has led them to be known as super high school level bodyguard, the Madara brothers' greatest talent. At least that's what I heard. octuplets? Octuplets, including Ishiki Madurai to Yashiki Madurai. Super high school level, multiple birth siblings. So, Octomom just gave birth to friggin' superheroes. Well, superpowered, talented people. They all seem to be perfectly identical twins and can think pretty much exactly the same. So, hey. That is the Madurai brothers' greatest talent. So, a bunch of them are already dead. So, like, are the other ones explicitly dead, or are some of them not dead? That's cheating, isn't it? I desperately shouted out. That's not being immortal at all. That doesn't even make any sense. Then the two Madurai mouths creaked open. Well, that's just how it is. And we've got ×3. Wait, there's one extra? At that moment, I heard footsteps from behind me. Both Kirigiri-san and I turned around at the same time. As if blocking the doorway to the back of the laboratory, stood another Madurai. I'm Rokushiki Madurai. This time it's a character for 6. Like earlier, I don't really know if it's pronounced Roku. That was the arrival of the third one. With this, you guys have lost by numbers as well, and in order. That's why you shouldn't let your guard down, following right up to beat. We're going to beat reality into you till you fess up, as all 3 voices rang out. Right to left, and then from behind. They circled around me, forming a semicircle, perplexing me. Hey, what should we do? I faced Kirigiri-san with my clingy voice. This isn't the time to be thinking about that. The two Madurais in front of us kicked at the wreckage towards us, turning the wreckage into lethal projectiles. Kirigiri-san rammed into me, using that force to push me to the opposite side. The flying bits of the door wreckage barely missed us at a hair's breadth. There. Due to being pushed, I fell on my butt, but because it was no time to falter, I quickly stood up. But right at that moment, the neck cuff of my shirt was pulled from behind. Without time to even think about hurting or to be let go, I was thrown. Like a rampaging child throwing his doll in a tantrum, my body flew through the air, and my body hitting a wall, finally coming to a stop. My eyes blacked out from the shockwave. All that I knew was that I was in a hallway. It was difficult to comprehend how easily I was thrown from the laboratory, but in any case, I just had to deal with my body aching all over. With my butt, my neck, and my back all being beat up more than necessary, I tried to pull through my numbness along with dealing with the pain coming from seemingly losing all feeling from those body parts. Then out of nowhere, Madurai stood in front of me. Not too far from the ceiling, his eyes looked down on me from a sharp angle, which more than resembled a reptile now. In other words, it was terrifying. You've gotten away time after time again. Even though I heard his words, strangely his mouth didn't move. But with 2 people, this should be more than enough. Then from behind the Madurai standing in front of me, stepped out a different Madurai. Looks like that was Madurai who was talking to. There's so many things going on here. The 2 Madurai standing in my blurred vision, this was truly a scene of despair. Not only that, with me thrown in the hallway, I couldn't rely on Kirigiri-san any longer. I'll ask you one more time. They once again spoke out in harmony. In what way are you related to this case? Following up, who should I be taking out my revenge on in rapid succession? Where is that bastard? As if whining together. Or maybe it's really you, they said. Hurry up and talk, pursued me. But right at that moment, I suddenly felt a breeze over my head. Looking up, I saw that window was open. The moment I saw that, an inspiration flew into my mind. Looks like you won't talk unless I force it out of you. At the same time, the Madurai's hands reached out toward me. There was no time to hesitate. I dodged through the arms as I stood up, and at that rate, I jumped with all my might onto the edge of the window. With that motion, I aimed toward the rear garden, and that's when I realized. This was the 3rd floor. Yeah, see, she's still got the super analytical powers, so she's still going to be able to escape from this, so... but yeah, I mean, jumping from a 3rd story is going to fucking hurt, but... What? The expressions of the Madurais left behind both changed to surprise simultaneously. Throwing myself out of the hallway's 3rd window was definitely outside of their expectations. And that goes the same for myself. Actually, the surprise on my face was most likely even greater than theirs. Then, while still surprised, my body caught by gravity continued to fall straight down towards the garden. Ah! What followed that fall was a shockwave. It wasn't a fatal shockwave, however. It didn't even take my conscious. Miraculously, my body fell straight into some shrubbery, exceptionally cushioning my fall. This was just 100% coincidence. I didn't know about it, I didn't aim for it, and I didn't expect it either. But for some reason, even though I couldn't understand it, I took that coincidence like it was a matter of course. Still, the shockwave was strong enough to numb most of my body, and my arms, legs, and face were all being stabbed by the prickly bits of the shrubbery. Even so, I calmly ordered my head to escape, and my arms and feet slowly regained their functions. I then proceeded to crawl out on all fours. While crawling, I ran into 2 pairs of black shoes. Continuing on all fours, I raised my head to see 2 Madarai's looking down at me. I'm Shiki Madarai. I'm Yoshiki Madarai. They were different Madarai's from the ones on the 3rd floor. Looks like they were called out. Well, we certainly didn't expect you to come falling down. Without thinking, a gulping sound came from my throat. But despite this nightmare-like situation, I didn't feel confused, scared, or uneasy. Instead, what I felt was that intense itchiness in my brain. Along with that itchiness came a premonition. I won't die. I won't die here. How that premonition floated up was unknown even to myself, but it was definite that it was that was the premonition. I was almost completely sure about that. What's with that easygoing face? It's pissing me off. The 2 Might Eyes looked like they were wrapping around each other as they advanced and examined my face. In those eyes were thick concentration of murderous intent. Why don't you understand the situation you're in for once? The Might Eyes then formed a fist together and followed up raising them together. While my gaze was looking past them, focused on the girl behind their shoulders. It seems that my premonition earlier conveniently matched the situation at the moment. You shouldn't pry into outsiders' affairs so much. The Martyr Eyes turned around at the same time, and the girl who was supposed to be as far away to the point where she was the size of a thumb suddenly appeared behind their backs. The itchiness in my brain, at that point I remembered. That girl's name was Mikuro Ikusaba. I won't say anything, but you should probably lay off that girl. Then with both hands, she firmly gripped the Martyr Eye's arms. As their expressions changed to anguish, their knees hit the floor. Give up. Your hands won't last in this level of situation. Her grip on their hands was so strong that a sound could be heard. Just where could that some girl be hiding all that power? But the ones that understood her strength firsthand was the suffering Martyr Eyes themselves. Don't screw with me! The kneeling Martyr Eyes screamed, almost at the same time. Behind Ikuba-san were... oh my god. Behind Ikusaba-san, who was behind the Martyr Eyes, came 2 different Martyr Eyes jumping out. Several right and left legs shot out in symmetry in a flying kick towards Ikusaba-san, but without any signs of being faced at all, she released the arms of the Martyr Eyes in front of her and dodged the flying kicks coming at her in one fluid motion. The 2 brothers who launched those flying kicks nimbly changed positions before landing. The 4 Martyr Eyes had Ikusaba-san completely surrounded. What do we do about that girl over there? Leave that to Rokushiki. Can you handle that by yourself? It's not like she's accustomed to combat. First, let's take care of this one. Yeah, that would be simpler. While they discussed their strategy with their ridiculously similar voices, their firm watch over Ikusaba-san did not waver once. But Ikusaba-san showed no signs of being cornered. Instead, she was rapidly glancing at their faces while seemingly murmuring her confirmations. If I defeat these 4, and I just leave 1 for Kirigiri-san, got it. All according to plan. All according to plan. Hearing those words, the Martyr Eyes strongly reacted. In harmony, all 4 of their voices shouted out, "What the hell are you talking about?" But of course, Ikusaba-san responded with a cool face. Not much. Nothing you guys would need to know. You guys don't even seem to be holding any important information in the first place. That's why I'm telling you now, you should probably give up. Shut up, times 4. The 4 intimidating voices attacked Ikusaba-san all at once. You think we can give up now? We swore to them. We'll keep on going for the student council. We'll prove that to you. We'll swear to protect the student council's honor. We'll protect it to the death. We'll definitely take our revenge on you. We won't let anyone get in our way. From right to left, from front to back. Their frustrated interchanging words dispersed throughout the air. Even so, Ikusaba-san carefully scratched her head, sighing. I feel like I can relate to what you guys are going through, but... wait, that's a lie. I actually can't relate to them at all. But I can understand them. But that girl is different. To her, she has no gain from understanding what you have to say. Stuff like your thoughts or your hope, they mean nothing to her. It means nothing to the one who set up this entire scenario. So trying to end all of this by pushing on her would be futile. Grinds. The sound of their mutual grinding filled the garden. It looks like you don't know anything at all. You don't know about Hope Speak Academy history's worst incident, it seems. That's convenient. We'll listen to what you have to say, but after we beat you up. The 4 Martyr Eyes bent down and formed a stance. Ah, jeez. Even after I warned you, Ikusaba-san seemed to grumble, even though I didn't want any more victims to get involved. Victim? Once again, the Madara all shouted together. Encircling her like a dog threatens to shepherd a herd, bared their teeth and roared. Do you know about our brothers? Where did our brothers disappear to? What happened to Ashiki, Nishiki, and Mishiki? Oh, sorry, Mishiki. Not Sanshiki. I thought counting was Ichni Sanchi. But maybe writing it is different. I don't know. Then Ikusaba-san turned back with her freezing glare. She responded, "Don't come near me." Those words triggered it. A sound like something rupturing was heard as four brothers kicked off the grounds with all their might, as they headed towards Ikusaba-san from 4 different directions at once. Like I said, it's pointless. Just as Ikusaba-san was about to get hit by the blunt of those attacks, she dodged them completely with just one movement. No matter how many of you come at me at once, your base value never changes. That kind of pack mentality attack won't get through me. While murmuring in that calm voice, she moved at a speed incomprehensible to the naked eye. The Madara's attacked with such coordination to the point where their breaths were at the same pace, while Ikusaba-san easily dodged them with brilliant deduction. It was almost like she was from a different dimension. I mean, she fought, I think it's literally hundreds of Monokumas during If. I mean, I know it's in an alternate dimension, but it's based on still this one. So, yeah. I won't let anyone oppose that girl. Even while dancing, she murmured. Her breath didn't falter once. That's because this is for despair. The Madara's continued to repeat their emaciated attacks, while Ikusaba-san, on the other hand, continued to move faster, rolling like a torrent. Eventually, that torrent mercilessly swallowed them up. From there, it was pretty much a one-sided development. It developed one-sidedly, and it ended one-sidedly. When Ikusaba-san finally stopped, the 4 Madara's were laid around her feet. That wasn't some halfway transition. What I witnessed was truly only that event. It's over. Letting out a small sigh, Ikusaba-san murmured while already looking away from the Madara's. Those eyes then faced towards me. Astonished, I forgot what I was doing and I was just taken aback. Why are you so strong? It's all I'm good for, after all. The girl who replied didn't have one thing you could call an expression laid out on her face. It was like she was wearing an emotionless mask, with only specks of blood spattered here and there. Why did you save me? Well, just because. Just because? Ikusaba-san nodded and dropped her gaze down to her feet. After a few moments of silence, she gently opened her mouth again. For example, it's like a video game RPG. Video game? It's like that? Like a straightforward RPG or something. The people who live in that world, it looks like they have their own will, but it just looks like that. In the end, they are just scripted to act in a way convenient for the game. It's the same with the protagonist. It's just that the protagonist doesn't even realize what he is. What are you trying to say? Well, my fight with the Madara's wasn't a coincidence. Actually, it's the same with the Madara's coming to the neurology lab. And the same with removing the unnecessary Kirigiri sound from the scenario. Everything was determined right from the beginning. What do you mean determined? The same goes for me. I'm just moving along a scripted path with her scenario. Moving according to her will, only to prevent the scenario from taking the wrong path. Her? I'm talking about Junko Enoshima, of course. At that moment, it felt like my blood froze. As expected, everything returns to Junko Enoshima. Everything from getting Mio Mitsuda involved, it's all because of that horrible girl. Wait, what? At that point, I suddenly realized it. Then you're working with Junko Enoshima? As I glared at her blamingly, Ikusaba-san hesitantly responded, as if embarrassed. Well, working with her, it's more like she's my sister. Huh? It was too sudden of a confession. Mikuru Ikusaba and Junko Enoshima are sisters. Wait, that's even worse than just working together, isn't it? But even though we're sisters and we're connected by blood, all of that doesn't mean anything to her. After all that girl looks for is despair. Other people's despair, her own despair. All that exists for her. All of a sudden, it looks like Ikusaba-sans were gazing far away. Her eyes were gazing far away. Did I not say eyes? I don't think I said eyes. That's why, whoever it may be, whatever situation it may be, whatever world it may be, it just all means nothing to her, unless she is dealing with despair. That's the world of the girl known as super high school level despair, Junko Enoshima. But that's ridiculous. Yes, it's ridiculous. That's what Junko Enoshima is. Hearing her response, I felt a new sensation of dread. This time it was creeping up from my feet bit by bit. Yes, she really is ridiculous. To the point of despair. She's the lowest, worst sister ever, but that's why I can't leave her alone. That's why I have to help her. After all, I'm the only one who can understand her. Then, looking at the face Ikusaba-san showed me, I was suddenly taken aback. The ever so emotionless face was ecstatic and smiling. I don't know if she is attracting despair or despair is attracting her, but she has lived her whole life with despair by her side. She lived while immersed in despair. That's why she began looking for despair in others. She learned to enjoy pushing people into despair, but that's normal. It's the same as someone being cursed by misfortune fall into hatred for those who aren't. But what's special about her was that she learned to enjoy inflicting despair onto herself. That's how her link to despair began. As she chased down despair, she pushed it onto others on the way. Doing so, it caused her desire falling into despair even more. And because of that chain of despair, the super high school level despair was born. While she spoke, fuck me. While she spoke, it was like she fell into a fever. The expressions on her face turned into ecstasy. It was so completely absurd that it would be hard for anyone to think that anything but a joke. But I understood that this was real. It might have been because of the memories of Junko and Ashima inside me led to that conclusion. Hey, you don't get it, right? I don't think anybody could. But only I can understand it. Consumed by ecstasy, even Ikusaba-san's breaths began to become ragged. Only I am able of understanding her. That's why she needs me. She still hasn't realized that, but maybe she is only pretending not to realize. That's because she's so shy. Well, I mean, I don't know if Mitsuda understands her. Mitsuda's clearly infatuated to some extent. I don't know if Mitsuda understands her. Seeing this intoxicated Ikusaba-san continue to talk like that repelled me. I knew that she definitely didn't have normal feelings for Junko and Ashima, but that sort of thing shouldn't have anything to do with me. That's right, this has nothing to do with me. Without thinking, I started speaking. It's not like I know anything about you or Junko and Ashima. That sort of thing doesn't have anything to do with me. Realizing what I was saying, I quickly apologized. I'm sorry. At that moment, Ikusaba-san's face turned pale. I'm sorry. Getting more and more into it, I began to bow my head as well. You don't need to apologize that much. I'm sorry. Even so, I continued to apologize to the point where she almost felt bad, and then I realized how tired I was. Putting everything aside, I was tired. Tired from the confrontation in the Murder Eyes, the conversation with Ikusaba-san about Junko and Ashima, and above all, I just wanted to see Mitsuda-kun. That's right, I want to see Mitsuda-kun. Hey, it's okay if I leave now, right? With eagerness strong enough to blow away my tiredness, I felt like I had to get out of this place, and without waiting for an answer. Anyway, thanks for helping me. I'll be leaving now. Leaving those words just as I started running off. Oh wait, I still haven't told you the whereabouts of Yasuke Mitsuda. Immediately breaking to a stop, I turned around and faced Ikusaba-san. If you don't know where he is, you probably won't be able to see him. How do you know where Mitsuda-kun is? I immediately ran up closer to her. More importantly, if you know, then please tell me. But as I approached her, I was suddenly taken aback. Ikusaba-san's face was radically different from earlier, a grim, stern expression. It felt as if she was a sniper in a battlefield, aiming her target. I don't like it when things go towards this direction after getting along so well. But this is part of the scenario, so I have no choice. While murmuring with sadness as if she was about to cry, she shot her freezing glare towards me. And in order for me to tell you Yasuke Mitsuda's whereabouts, an exchange is required. Exchange? Ikusaba-san then pointed toward the Murder Eyes laying on the floor and spoke with a low voice. Those people laying over there still don't know about the last remaining member of the student council president being murdered. I'm sure if they found out, they would fall into despair. Despair strong enough to push them to even die for the sake of revenge. What are you saying? My voice filled with tension. Even I understood what she was talking about. If you leave them be, I'm sure they would go and kill Yasuke Mitsuda. Kill. Soon, those words began to spin around in my head. Why does Matsuda-kun need to die? The student council president's murder has nothing to do with him. That's not true. It does have something to do with him. Ikusaba-san shaked her head. Besides, because Yasuke Mitsuda murdered the student council president. Murdered, 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 murdered. That's why we'll exchange. While saying that, she took out something out of her pocket and threw it towards my feet. Work your hardest for his sake. If you really love Yasuke Matsuda, then you'd work your hardest for him. I dropped my eyes towards my feet. Sitting on the moist ground was a knife with Hope Speak Academy's emblem engraved onto it. The moment I laid my eyes on it, my heart began beating with an amount of blood strong enough to break a vessel. To seize hope for both him and yourself, you must work at your hardest. I can't be expected to. Kill, 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 kill. You can't be serious, right? No, I'm serious. Without time for thinking, she immediately responded. You will overcome Hope Speak Academy here. With the sacrifice of the martyrized, you'll obtain true hope. That is the scenario Junko Enoshima has assigned to you. What is this? The scenario Junko Enoshima assigns? Why? Why am I forced to do this? The severe confusion gave me a fever. I was attacked with immense dizziness and ringing in my ears. Why? And then I realized I was gazing up at the sky. Thick grey clouds began covering the sky, making it like only this moist, gloomy garden was in the middle of the night, enveloped in silence. While I stared at the sky absent-mindedly, I could feel the black, helpless emotions inside of me bubbling up. Like the toxic sludge from underground sewers, it dried up like dead grass. I stopped and thought with my hazy head. This is despair. To overcome this despair and seize hope? Whose voice was that? Was it mine? Ikusaba-san's? Or was it... But it already had nothing to do with me. Suddenly, I reached out my hand toward the silver knife. And then to slice away the dark fog of despair, I wielded the knife in a trance. Doing so, I felt the texture of flesh. Beyond the knife standing into the martyrized bodies, I could feel the blade stabbing all the way through the skin and muscle. The fresh blood squirting out. The cries of death. Goosebumps spread across my skin, and I instantly felt the pain of my stomach's insides knotting together. Despite that, I stabbed. Overcome despair, for the sake of seizing hope for Matsuda-kun and I. I stabbed and 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 stabbed. I could hear my screams coming from far away. They were screams of my broken heart. I then returned to myself. From there, as if to shake off the delusions floating up into my head, I soon screamed once again. I can't do it. While my hand was rigid from reaching out towards the knife, my head ached from fear of the simulation that just flew by my mind. I won't do it. I have no reason to do this. Then I heard the puzzled voice of Ikusaba-san coming from above. You know that if you don't overcome despair here, you won't be able to seize hope, right? I can't do that, I screamed while sobbing. Hope and despair? That's just what you or Junko Enoshima have been talking about, right? It has nothing to do with me. My throat began to burn up from screaming so much, and my tears and snot mixed together as I crouched towards the ground. Help me, Matsuda-kun. As if pleading, I continued to cry. Grasping my head, I continued to shamelessly cry. Help me, Matsuda-kun. Matsuda-kun. Then, an even further puzzled voice could be heard from Ikusaba-san. I don't really know what to do in these kinds of situations, but anyway, I'll tell you where Yasuke Matsuda is. Huh? In surprise, I lifted up my head. Huh? Ikusaba-san was in surprise as well, probably because my face was so unsightly from crying. You'll tell me? Well, if things end at this rate, Junko-chan will get mad at me. Hearing that, I scrubbed my face with the sleeves of my uniform, and once again firmly stood up on my 2 feet. Then I slapped my cheeks to focus, and faced Ikusaba-san with a question. Then tell me, where is Matsuda-kun? Ikusaba-san then responded with a light voice. Yasuke Matsuda is at the ex-school building. Once again, the intense itchiness attacked my head. Ex-school building. I felt like I heard those words not too long ago somewhere. But it was no time to be dealing with that itchiness right now. Got it. So if I go to the ex-school building, I'll meet Mitsuda-kun, right? Yes, that place is supposed to be the plan's climax. I'm able to meet Mitsuda-kun. With that thought in mind, a mysterious power seemed to come up from deep within me. My screaming and shouting and falling into despair from behind seemed all to be a lie. I felt myself brimming with energy. This is hope. Thanks. I'll be taking off then. I then bowed my head towards Ikusaba-san. I had no reason to bow my head toward the sister of the horrible Junko Enoshima, who was assisting her in that messed up plan, but this might be the power of hope as well. Alright, good luck then. I take care of cleaning up what's left here. Ikusaba-san spoke while looking around at the martyrs laying at her feet. After I clean this up, I'll go and help Kirigiri-san. Then I'll remove Kirigiri-san from this scenario. Then everything will go along just like the scenario. So leave the rest to me. I was tired of hearing her repeatedly talk about the scenario towards the very end. That's why with a short bye, I immediately ran off. But as soon as I dashed off, I noticed something. While running, I turned around and I saw Ikusaba-san absent-mindedly standing still. Lying around her were the 4 martyr eyes, but I felt like there was something missing there. But I couldn't remember what. But it wasn't the time to think about something like that, and I continued to run straight ahead. That's right, I don't have the time to be turning around. I was heading towards Hope's Peak Academy's North District X-School building. Even without looking at Ryuko Otonashi's notebook, the path towards my destination somehow floated up into my head. It looked like I was pretty troubled. Troubled to the point where I couldn't handle it, but if it's to meet Mitsuda-kun, then it'll be all okay. I'll be able to get rid of this uneasiness. That's because if I meet Mitsuda-kun, everything will turn back to normal. My head will become normal again, and then I'll be able to return to those peaceful days with Mitsuda-kun. I have a feeling that may not be true. Whatever that may be, whatever may happen, I'll return to those peaceful days of receiving treatment from Mitsuda-kun. That is my ideal happy ending. What I headed for wasn't the ex-school building, it was towards that happy ending. Heading towards that happy ending, I ran as fast as I could. As she unwillingly runs right into despair, like she meant in the chat she was doing earlier. Huh? Rain? I noticed it when entering the central garden from the back left of the biology laboratory. It seems like rain began falling at some point. The rain wasn't too hard, but it was strong enough for sounds of it hitting the trees and grass to be heard. But this level of rain won't be enough to stop me. As the cold rain engulfed my body, I aimed towards the lined up school buildings and dashed off to the East District's central garden. Due to either the rain or because it was possibly during lecturing hours, there weren't many students around in the central garden. Either way, there were students running as if fleeing from the rain, the others who were calmly walking under umbrellas. As I ran ahead at full speed without any kind of protection from the elements, I must have gotten some odd looks towards my direction. This kind of thing would normally have nothing to do with me, but for some reason this particular time I felt a bit annoyed. I felt a violent irritation develop as those people standing from a safe place watched me as if examining some kind of swelling tumor. Even so, I continued to tell myself that it has nothing to do with me as I ran straight through the central garden. At that rate, I eventually exited the East District and ended up at the Central Plaza. And then, once again, I caught sight of a group of students. Most likely, they were heading back to their dormitories in the South District. Different coloured umbrellas in hand, they seemed to enjoy chatting with each other as they slowly walked down the pavement. Glancing at them from the back of my eye, I dashed off from the pavement. There probably isn't any clear-cut road leading to the North District's ex-school building, so unless I cut through the Central Plaza, I won't be able to proceed. The grass at my feet was wet, and there were puddles developing here and there as well. Reaching the now half-vacant North District, my figure soon disappeared from other people's vision. Seeing how there wouldn't even be many people in this area on a rainy day like this. The grass at my feet became more and more bare as I proceeded, and the number of trees began to decrease as well. Eventually, the land presented itself to be almost like a wasteland. After progressing through the wasteland for a bit, an artificial structure came into view. I see. As I looked up at the building, I began to slowly down my running pace. Hope's Peak Academy ex-school building. Just looking at its solemn appearance didn't give the impression that it was some abandoned building, but not having done so for quite a while, I checked out my Ryuko Otonashi memory notebook. The memory part is disappearing. It always said memory notebook, and now it's not doing that. It seemed that this building had already fulfilled its role, at most half a year ago. If that was true, then it wouldn't be strange for this building to still seem like it was used not too long ago. But the tall fences that surrounded the building seemed to shout out that it was already finished. Plates were even stuck on the fences detailing Hope Speak Academy North District planned construction lands. Do not enter! While straightening out my unsteady breath, I walked at a slow pace around the fence. To enter the ex-school building, it seemed like there was no other way than to climb over these, but then, once again, I could feel that itchiness in my head. Still not used to it, my face grimaced, and then suddenly a thought floated through my head. Speaking of which, I remember hearing that there were security guards around this area. Even though I didn't look at my notebook, I remembered that. Surprised by those turn of events, I came to a halt without thinking, and then another wave of surprise hit me. A number of security guards surrounded me. Huh? In a panic, I frantically looked around me, speechless and emotionless, almost as if like they were lifeless mannequins. All they were doing was simply looking straight at me. I'm not really anyone suspicious or anything. Wait, what? Without listening to my excuses, security guards split up and dispersed. Ignoring what should have been an obvious intruder, they continued their patrol and left. Being left behind, I stood there shocked, speechless, and then met eyes with only one remaining security guard. He's young. The face under the helmet was of a high schooler, no matter how you look at it. His mouth twisted into something like a smile, and he brought out a shining object. It was a medal. The medal had a bear mascot engraved upon it. It was half white and half black. It was a peculiar bear mascot. If I recall correctly, it was called Monokuma. It happened again. Without even looking back at the notebook, that thought floated up into my head by itself. It was almost like someone else's thoughts pushed into my head. It was an eerie sensation. Is this what remembering is? But this wasn't time to be analyzing myself. Suddenly, the right arm of the security guard unexpectedly extended outward. It seemed like he was pointing out something with that right arm. Following that direction with my eyes, I was led to a small opening one could crawl into between the fences. But why would a security guard tell me something like that? The moment I returned my eyes towards the security guard, he was already walking away. Not exactly sure why. I absentmindedly gazed at his figure moving farther and farther away, as another thought suddenly floated into my brain again. It looked like I remembered yet another thing. In the end, everyone was just conveniently moving along the scenario. Suddenly, I felt some kind of heavy fear pressing on me from the back of my head. But it'll be alright, I desperately convinced myself. Anyway, if it's to meet Mitsuda-kun, then everything will be alright. That's what I believed. I believed in Mitsuda-kun. I believed in my feelings for Mitsuda-kun. I believed in the world of myself and Mitsuda-kun. By earnestly believing in him, I threw away all my uneasiness, and then moved forward with renewed vigor. I crawled under the small opening in the fence and reached the back side of the ex-school building. As I walked around the building looking for an entrance, I came across a large entranceway in the front. Possibly due to the building's condition getting worse, the door was half open. It was pretty obvious that it wasn't locked. I drew closer to it while keeping an eye out, and carefully slipped into the opening. What laid ahead of the door was a dim, dusty entrance hallway. Mitsuda-kun! While calling out his name, I continued to proceed down the hall. Wet noises could be heard coming from my shoes, absorbing the moisture at my feet. Mitsuda-kun, where are you? While raising my voice and peeking down the hallway, I felt like something was out of place. Isn't it too dark? Even more so than the entrance hall, the hallway ahead of me seemed to be enveloped by some unnatural darkness. It was as if not one ray of light could shine through it. But it should have still been afternoon. No matter how much it rains, there should have been some sign of the sun's light coming through the windows. A strange sound ran out through the darkness. Huh? It was not just once. Like a chain reaction, those sounds began to multiply. Can you tell which one of my hands isn't as good as clicking as the other? One by one, the lights turned on throughout the hallways, and by the time the sound stopped, the whole building was bright with light. Mitsuda-kun? That was all I could think of. He must have responded to my calling out. With that expectation pushing me forward, I proceeded down the hallway enveloped in artificial light. Mitsuda-kun, where are you? As I peeked into a passing classroom, Mitsuda-kun, checking a bathroom, Mitsuda-kun, while walking up the stairs, Mitsuda-kun, peeking into yet another classroom, Mitsuda-kun, checking a bathroom, Mitsuda-kun, while walking up the stairs, Mitsuda-kun. While continuing to go through those actions, I eventually ended up at the highest floor. Even there, while calling out, "Hey, Mitsuda-kun!" and going through the hallways, bathrooms, and classrooms, I couldn't catch sight of him anywhere. Getting tired, I decided to catch a quick breath. Then once again, that thought came into my mind. So the ex-school building was something like this. As I walked around the building looking for Mitsuda-kun, the atmosphere didn't really give the impression that it was anything like a school. First of all, there weren't any windows here. From the first floor all the way to the highest floor, the windows in all the hallways and classrooms were boarded up with thick wooden panels, appearing to be the cause of unnatural darkness. Furthermore, all the hallways and classrooms had seemingly nonsense, disgusting pieces of artwork with bad taste scattered everywhere. So, has the locking down of this place already happened? Or is this just, it's been abandoned so people sneak in and do shit? Because, I mean, when it says planks of wood blocking it, it is barred with giant metal sheets in Danganronpa 1. And bad, disgusting artwork with bad taste. That could describe all the Monokuma portraits that are done everywhere, which may be happening here. But my thought process, if there's Monokuma shit like plastered everywhere already in the school, would those people agree to lock themselves in there in the first place? Okay. As a result, any trace of the building being a school was lost. It was unthinkable that this building was in this state even from when it was being used. But if that was the case, then someone for some reason definitely had to have planned this. But who and why? You must be pretty surprised, huh? With no warning whatsoever, a voice came from behind me, and without thinking, I jumped up. In a panic, I turned around and, there wasn't anyone there. Oh, it's this again. Okay. Well, that's to be expected. Even I was surprised by all this. Even so, I could still hear that voice. Once again, I looked around my surroundings, and as I thought, I couldn't detect any human figure. Hey, Oni-chan, where are you looking? I'm right here, you know. Oni-chan is the more polite way of saying big sister. It is used to occasionally by younger boys when addressing an older girl, and a general term used by people when addressing teenage to young adult women. Oh, okay. I thought it was just siblings, but Oni-chan for everything, I guess. The voice was coming from in front of me, coming from the hallway. Yes, I'm right here. Wincing due to the exceedingly strange turn of events, I focused my conscience towards the direction where the voice was coming from. As I continued to stare, a young boy's figure began to float up. And now we've got to waste a bunch of time with this arsehole. A child? Oh, I guess you forgot about me once again. The boy, looking to be fed up, put his hands onto himself. I'm Yuto Kamashiro, class 77, super high school level spy. I immediately opened up the Ryuko Otonashi notebook and was able to remember before that annoying itching bothered my head. Oh, Kamashiro-kun. Jeez, how many times have I introduced myself to you now? Displeased, Kamashiro-kun puffed out his cheeks. Wait, why are you in a place like this? That's what I was gonna say. While letting air out from his puffing cheeks, he spoke. Actually, how did you even get in here? Weren't there a good amount of security guards wandering around the area? It's nothing for someone with no presence like myself, but I would think it's impossible for an average person like you to get past all those guards. I was at a loss for words. There's no way he'd believe me if I said the security guards just let me through. It just kinda happened. As a result, that was the only explanation I could think of. You forgot how you got in here? Oh well, guess there's no choice. But it seemed like he accepted it one way or the other. Being forgetful helps sometimes, I guess. Well, there's nothing I can do for you if you already got here. Kamashiro-kun then began boastfully talking about how he got into the school. From the results of various espionage activities, he caught wind of the secrets connecting the ex-school building and a series of incidents occurring, and then sneaked into the building itself not much earlier from when I reached it, it appears. By the way, it appeared that it was also Kamashiro who found the breaker to the electricity and turned on all the lights. But it's pretty impressive that you were able to find the breaker when it was so dark. I guess the night vision scope I used in my hobbies was pretty helpful. Scared, I decided not to ask exactly what those hobbies would be. Good thinking. Well, when I think about it, meeting you here was some good timing. After all, if you, my client, weren't here, the resolution phase, honestly, I don't know what the original text is supposed to be to translate into, wouldn't be able to start. Huh? Resolution phase. Kamashiro-kun then took out a pastry and with a huge bite stuffed it into his cheeks and spoke in a proud manner. Basically, I already got the full picture of this story down. The next step is to take care of things in a spy-like manner and prevent it from happening, and that'll be another case complete. I see. Isn't that reaction a bit too weak? Kamashiro-kun proceeded to then ridiculously overreact. But a weak reaction was to be expected. After all, things like the case or the resolution phase didn't matter to me at all. More importantly, Matsuda-kun. I need to meet Matsuda-kun. It's going to be the word I've said the most of this whole fucking year. It'll be alright. Yasuke Matsuda should be heading over here soon. Huh? You're probably worrying about Yasuke Matsuda, right? While suppressing his laughter, he shoved the rest of the bread into his mouth and immediately started off in another direction. Alright, let's go. We'll talk while walking. Go as in where? Come on, if you don't hurry, I'll leave you behind. Kamashiro-kun then rhythmically got onto the stairs, while I hurriedly followed after. Hey, wait. You know what Matsuda-kun is? Haha, already going off about him. You sure are impatient, Oni-chan. Well, I don't really dislike that part of you, however. You know, it's pretty common in American movies. Those scenes where they start stripping down while... No, stop screwing around. You're the one screwing around, aren't you? No, I'm not even engaging. It was because the look on his face was unexpectedly dangerous and ruthless. Matsuda-kun, man, you sure are persistent. Just be quiet and listen to what I have to say for now. Without any word of confirmation, Kamashiro-kun's words and gaze put pressure on me, and then he returned to seemingly bouncing down the stairs. After leaping forward toward the end of the flight, he once again turned back towards me. What's wrong, Oni-chan? Hurry up! His face already returned to that innocent smile. Come on, hurry up! Alright. Confused, I walked down the stairs. After rejoining Kamashiro-kun at the end of the stairs, we continued side by side down the next flight. Okay, let's start with Hope Speak Academy's worst incident. It seems that his resolution phase or whatever's already begun. I think you already got the gist of it, but Hope Speak Academy's worst incident occurred somewhere in this ex-school building. That's right, everything started right here. Connecting everything in one go, it seemed to be the detective-style way of the resolution phase. That's that bloody classroom that we found in the other game, right? In the first game, I mean. It was certainly the worst incident that ever occurred in Hope Speak Academy. After all, 13 members of the student council composed of the elite were murdered, but there were 2 people who survived that worst incident. One was super high school level student council president Soshin Murasame, who somehow escaped along with the suffering of major injuries. And the other person was Izuru Kamakura. Wait, what? Even I was surprised I blurted out those words without thinking. How rare to see you remembering something. Kamashiro-kun's strange gaze then struck me. Well, whatever. He soon moved on to begin explaining once again. Izuru Kamakura was hiding something. The fact that he was an individual amazing enough to be called super high school level Hope. Kamakura was researched on by Hope Speak Academy. They raised him. He was the result of their collective effort. Every talent and ability was forced into his body that was of the super high school level class. He truly was Hope Speak Academy's hope. That's why the school hid the existence of that secret, to the point where no student knew anything about Izuru Kamakura. Whether he was a boy or a girl, he was raised to be completely sheltered. Sheltered upbringing, living completely closed off from the world. I was the same as him. I was shocked that it sounded almost exactly like myself, but that Kamakura guy caused a ridiculous incident to occur. Kamashiro-kun then seemed to become more serious. Kamakura, of all things, caused that bizarre mass murder to occur within the school. It really was the worst. After all, the person who was praised to be super high school level Hope, more than anyone else, caused such a despair-inducing incident to occur. If it wasn't the worst, then I don't know what is. What's about to happen, motherfucker? That was the reason why it was called Hope Speak Academy's worst incident. That certainly was something the school would label it as. The existence they raised together as a collective effort, committing such an unprecedented, bizarre murder crime. There wasn't anything to call it but the worst. But that's not all there is. What's even worse is not only did the school not bring light to the situation, they attempted to fully conceal it. See, we saw before, the video that they were showing the Monokuma heads, it said phase 2 mutual killing and then people killing each other. So how much is Izuru Kamakura actually responsible for killing those people there? Because it's kind of just been told to us that Izuru killed all of them. And then we saw a footage of a tape, and it's like, when it says mutual killing, I can't think of any other incidents that have occurred yet that would be mutual killing. So, did Izuru, like, how many of those people did he even kill? Because, I mean, there was the folding chair, and the knife, and the pipe, and all of that. As he spoke while rhythmically stepping down the stairs, I was completely sucked into what he was saying. Without making any sort of response, without writing anything in my notebook, I just intently listened to what he had to say. The school was most likely afraid, after all. If people were to catch wind of that incident, the foundation of the school's principle, talent is humanity's hope, would crumble. If that happened, the school would lose authority, and if handled improperly, they wouldn't last much longer. That's why the school is trying to hush up the incident. Well, there was probably pressure from outside sources as well, but the ones we should feel sorry for are those student council guys. Student council, those words snuck into my head. Along with that itchiness, it forced that memory to surface. That memory was the Madara brothers, their faces as they relentlessly chased after that incident. After all, those guys all died in vain. It really is awful. It's like, as long as for the sake of school's hope, anything can become a stepping stone. Even if it wasn't the preparatory department, that kind of thinking is to be expected. Okay, I have no clue what that last part was trying to say whatsoever. I appreciate we're getting more notes from the translator just being like, yeah, I got no fucking idea. I shook my head and chased those images out of Madara's face. They don't have anything to do with me. This wasn't the time to be thinking about them. And then the ones who led this process of covering the evidence were none other than the top of the top, the committee board members themselves. They hid the fact that Azuru Kamakura was not just a survivor, but the perpetrator of the entire incident. And that's where this ex-school building comes in. Either way, there's no reason to ignore the place where the incident occurred. Might as well check it out while we're here carefully snooping around, right? While descending from the second floor stairs to the first floor stairs, Kamashiro-kun continued going on indifferently. What really was a miscalculation on the school side was, while they were moving along assuming they covered up the incident, there was still another troublesome individual that hadn't been dealt with. Junko and Ashima. The moment I spoke those words, we reached the first floor. Over here, come with me. Without a moment of hesitation, Kamashiro-kun continued to walk forward. The first person to discover the truth of that incident was Junko Enoshima. Then, by dragging out Azuru Kamakura, she aimed to overthrow Hope's Peak Academy. While continuing to walk, both Kamashiro-kun's destination and resolution phase seemed to be reaching the core. What happened afterwards was completely aligned with her plan. The disappearance of the committee board old men shows that. That was definitely her doing. She probably kidnapped them and forced Azuru Kamakura's whereabouts from them with brute force, but Junko Enoshima really is someone to fear. Jeez, and just how is she super high school level fashion girl? Hearing Kamashiro-kun's words, that itchiness brought up a flashback. My memories were reviving. This time it was that concrete room with those iron bars. Those corpses of the old men whose eyes were hideously sewn together were there. Oni-chan, what are you just doing spacing out like that? Over here, over here. Kamashiro-kun was already standing far away, calling out towards me, and I responded. Oh, sorry. I jogged over to where Kamashiro-kun was standing. He stopped at the very end of the first floor hallway. There was nothing in front of him but walls. It probably shouldn't be around here. What should be here? Ah, it's this. Raising his voice, he pointed towards a small opening in the wall. I borrowed this from the security guards outside, but while speaking, he pulled out a long rod-like object from his pocket. It looked like some kind of key. Kamashiro-kun then inserted the key into the wall. A clink could be heard coming from his small hand. Jackpot! I was thinking it could have been this. I've investigated like crazy all over the place, but there weren't any other suspicious areas. Sounding very proud of himself, Kamashiro-kun turned to the key. Along with the sound of rumbling, the door slid open like one of those automated doors. Past that door led simply a straight, long and narrow passageway. An imposing double door could be seen standing at the end. What is this place? I said it earlier, didn't I? This is where Azuru Kamakura is hidden. Kamashiro-kun sounded extremely excited. Matsuda-kun is here too? He could already be here or he could be on his way. Either way, Yasuke Matsuda will definitely show up. Kamashiro-kun then proceeded to step foot into the passageway, and I followed suit. Our steps rang about in the cool, dim passageway as we walked straight forward towards the back. My lips were getting dry, and I constantly felt the need to lick them. So I'm having the exact opposite problem, where my mouth is too not dry, and it's being confusing to talk, because I'm talking so much, but it's fine. When we finally reached the end, we stopped for the time being. Without saying anything, Kamashiro-kun put his hand on the door. Imitating his process, I did the same, and I saw that he was taking a deep breath. It seemed that even he was a bit nervous. We then exerted pressure at the same time, and the doors opened with an exaggerated groan. Past the door laid about 15 square meters of nothingness that spread out. With the ceiling and pillars being all completely bare, it was truly a dreary and tasteless room. Oni-chan, over there! Kamashiro-kun was pointing towards the center of the room. There stood a simple elevator one would see in a factory of some sorts. That must be it. Immediately after he spoke, Kamashiro-kun energetically ran towards the elevator. While I stood in hesitation, he manly pulled open the doors to the elevator and shouted, "Come on, hurry up, you want to meet Yasuke Matsuda, right?" Matsuda-kun. Those words pumped me up. That's right. The only reason I came to this dangerous place was for Matsuda-kun. I'm sure everything will get resolved if I can meet Matsuda-kun. This nightmare, my brain, everything will be exceptionally resolved into a happy ending waiting for me. That's why I have to go. Determined, I ran straight towards the elevator and jumped on that with that momentum. The moment I got on, my legs began to tremble, and I knew I regretted it. I'm sure this elevator was made with the sole purpose to hide Kamakura. Man, they really were exceptionally careful. Here we go. Sounding quite amazed, he took out the control panel from the floor and put it on his hand. There were only two buttons, floor 1 and floor B. Kamashiro-kun then pressed floor B without any hesitation. A ridiculously loud sound could be heard from the motor, and the floor began to heavily tremble. After I continued to tremble from uneasiness, the elevator began to steadily descend. This elevator is totally the elevator that takes you to the class trial rooms, right? That's totally what this is. They went on to it from the first floor. That's totally what this is. So, hey, it works out. Exciting, isn't it? Immediately, Kamashiro-kun began to raise his voice in a cheer. It looks like you really are enjoying this. Aren't you afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Kamashiro-kun responded with a smile on his face. To be honest, I'm actually terrified. To the point where I want to run away. Man, it's the first time I've ever felt like this. I can't believe someone like me is getting scared over this, but that's why this is so fun. After all, if I can overcome this fear, I'll develop even further as a spy. That's why I won't run away. For the sake of powering up as a spy, I won't run away. Then, a simple question floated into my head. Hey, Kamashiro-kun, why am I so persistent about my talent? That's a silly question, Oni-chan. He anticipated my question, I responded. It's the same thing as asking a swimmer, why are you still swimming if it hurts so much? It's only natural to be so fixated on it. After all, that's all I have. While talking, Kamashiro-kun raised his hands up as far as he could. Oh, Oni-chan, you should stretch out your body as well, to prepare for the unexpected, you know. Come on, puff out that chest. I'll pass. I thought you'd say that. After smiling with that innocent face, he returned to that serious look of his. If you take away my activities as a spy, I'd have nothing left. An extremely unnoticeable child. That's all I'd be. But I do have a talent. Because we have a talent, we can't choose how we live our lives. The moment we were given our talents, we already started living it in our set scenario. What a one-sided lifestyle, huh? That's very similar to what someone else was saying about scenarios. Because you have a talent, you're assigned a predestined fate to struggle with. If that's called a one-sided lifestyle, that's probably an accurate definition. But we actually desire that one-sided lifestyle ourselves. That's why we came to Hope's Peak Academy, to continue to struggle with the talents we're proud of. And along with the rest of the students of this school, you're the same, aren't you, Oni-chan? That's why we have to keep moving forward, no matter how scared we are. This isn't some cheap line like, believe in yourself. This is our duty. If we ran away, that'd be like rejecting our very existence. That's why we have to continue to struggle. Honestly, more than anyone else, my very being that continued to doubt myself couldn't understand Kamashiro-kun's feelings at all. After all, if I was scared, I could just run away. It doesn't have anything to do with me. Oh, but I'm not just scared, you know. Kamashiro-kun appeared to be justifying himself. Well, it's true that I'm scared, but I'm just as excited, however. Izuru Kamakura, Junko Enoshima, the elites of the student council, Yasuke Mitsuda, and the committee board, the chance to resolve the chaos that intertwines all of them. I'm sure if I'd be able to solve everything, my name would be carved into Hope's Peak Academy's history. The legendary spy who rescued the super high school level Hope, Yuto Kamashiro. Rescue? Without thinking, I responded, even though I've been listening all this time without a word, but that's why I was so interested in the wording. You mean what I meant by rescue? You know, Izuru Kamakura is the culprit of Hope's Peak Academy's worst incident, right? The point is, Izuru Kamakura is a victim too. That's what I mean, you know? Suddenly I feel like everything went silent. That's a bizarre feeling that washed over me. But it's the committee board members who decided not to let anyone discover this horrifying truth. That's why they hid only Izuru Kamakura down here using that reasoning. If I managed to uncover the real truth and chase down the true culprit, wouldn't that be the level of something left behind in Hope's Peak Academy? Ooh, here we go. Suddenly, his eyes began to sparkle. I don't really want appreciation from the school or anything, but just think about it. The image of the principal kneeling with tears streaming from his eyes, thanking me. Kamashiro-kun, while smiling, began spinning around. The sight of excitement was similar to one of a dog greeting someone. Actually, I already imagined the whole thing. Hope's Peak Academy savior, super high school level spy, Kamashiro Yuto or something. Now that would stand out. That would stand out like crazy. It'd stand out to the point where it would completely blow away my lack of presence. At that point, I feel like I finally caught a glimpse of his true feelings. I'm sure he believed in his talent, and at the same time he detested it. It was distorted, but most likely he was not the only one. Anyone who would be signed with a talent would probably somehow fall towards that feeling. And then it happens right after that. Clang. Along with that sound came a heavy shaking, and the sound of the monitors stopping rang out. It seems like the elevator had reached its destination, and I've reached me having another drink. It's a lot of reading. Looks like we're here. Finally ceasing this ridiculous dancing, he let out a quiet voice as the elevator calmly returned. And then while he walked toward the door, Now, I wonder if the masterminds are already here. Hold on. Without thinking, I held on to the door Kamashiro-kun was heading towards. What's wrong? You want to kiss before the decisive battle? No. I had a bad feeling about this. A really bad feeling. But nonetheless, I asked him. I had to ask him. Hey, what do you mean by mastermind? Kamashiro-kun's eyebrows twitched. That was careless of me. I was planning to reveal everything about the accomplices once I captured everybody. And then he lipped his lips with a bitter smile. Accomplice? The only person who could fit that category would be that girl. Actually, she's the only person I could think of. You're talking about Mukuro Ikusaba, right? Huh? She's suspicious? Unexpectedly, Kamashiro-kun appeared to be surprised. Wow, I didn't know that. That means there are 2 accomplices, huh? Well. This is just one huge family. This time, it was my turn to be surprised. Wait, if you didn't mean Mukuro Ikusaba, then... Of course, I'm talking about Yasuke Matsuda. At that moment, I was hit with a shockwave so powerful that the word shockwave wouldn't even describe it properly. My heart began beating as fast as it could, its agonizing screams reverberating all throughout my body. A cold shiver ran up my back, numbing my spine and taking my breath away. Well, I should probably tell you this right now, but Izuru Kamakura isn't someone who necessarily should be called the culprit in the first place. He was just some poor fellow who just got wrapped up in all this chaos. The real person who set all this up was Junko Enoshima. Basically, she wasn't just the first person to discover this case, but the mastermind pulling the strings from the shadows. The one who secretly worked as an assistant for her is none other than Yasuke Matsuda. But I wonder if it's weird for a man to be doing that sort of thing. Okay, I don't know if this is a pun or if the characters used for assistant in this case have a feminine connotation or not, but the first 2 characters used in assistant means something along the lines of a wife or female advisor, so I'm guessing that's why Kamashiro mentions Matsuda being a man. I appreciate we're just getting more explanations of, no, I don't know what the fuck they're going on about now either. I appreciate it. Kamashiro-kun's starting point for his revolution phase was such an unexpected topic that all I could do was stand there and listen. I'm pretty sure those 2 are the only ones aware of their relationship. Well, the school doesn't know about it, at least. Otherwise, they wouldn't even request help from Yasuke Matsuda in the first place. Or maybe that was their very reason. Anyway, as a result, Enoshi was able to successfully avoid investigation from the school. I became a brainless mannequin that couldn't even perform the simplest of responses. By the way, who is this Yasuke Matsuda he's been talking about? What Yasuke Matsuda would that be? But cooperating with them wasn't the only thing Yasuke Matsuda did. Like I said before, how the disappearance of the committee board members was the work of Enoshima. It appears that Matsuda was involved with that case as well. Man, they really are a great combination. You heard this before. Kyoko was telling you. I had no idea what he was talking about. In fact, I rejected comprehension of his words with all my might. By learning things I already don't want to know, my head will hurt, my chest will suffer, I'll feel like throwing up. Also, the conclusive evidence that ties them together, I've seen it. Well, it was because of witnessing that evidence I also was able to get this far to the truth, but is this when they kissed? I don't want to hear anymore, but as he was stabbing me, he continued talking. Junko Enoshima and Yasuke Matsuda's love scene. Junko Enoshima and Yasuke Matsuda's love scene? Was Kamashiro seriously in the room when they kissed and no one even noticed them? I mean, I know his talent is to not be noticed, but I feel like Junko would. I feel like Junko would overpower that talent. What is that? Really? What is that? Really? What the fuck? What the actual fuck? I heard the sound of something crashing down. It was the sound of my nerves crashing down dominoes in a chain reaction. The dominoes were the words Yasuke Matsuda, Junko Enoshima, and love scene. Written on them all came crashing down like an avalanche. Everything was arranged. Everything was arranged by Junko Enoshima. My relationship with Matsuda-kun, all my feelings towards Matsuda-kun were arranged by her. Matsuda-kun. Betrayed. That word played in the back of my ears. Betrayed, fooled, used, manipulated. That was the truth. The truth of this incident. Yasuke Matsuda, Junko Enoshima. Love scene. They clattered as they were crashing down. At the same time, the door was clattering while Kamashiro-kun was prying it open. Come on, Oni-chan, for the time being, let's get out of here. We'll talk about the rest once everyone's together. Come on, hurry up, hurry up. Still in a daze, I was pushed out of the elevator by Kamashiro-kun. As I staggered out clumsily, I found myself in a massively tall circular hall. It was like a miniature theater. Hey, this place is pretty nice. Kamashiro-kun's voice coming from behind me echoed across the hall. Yep, this could actually be a fitting stage for my resolution phase to begin. It certainly looked like a stage developed with something in mind. There was nothing there. There wasn't anything that would give the impression of anyone living here. Interior design was kept to a minimum with wallpaper and carpets, and the only furniture were a bed and drawer. There was a bare Western-style toilet sitting at the corner as well. Either a wide, extravagant prison or a low-budget play setting. That was the impression it gave. Although what drew my attention more was the fact that no one was here. Junko Nishima, Mukuro Ikasaba, Matsuda-kun, or even Azuru Kamakura was supposed to be hidden here. None of them could be seen. This was the situation instead of any of the important individuals Kamashiro-kun just spoke of. Only the outsiders Yuto Kamashiro and Ryuko Otanashi were standing. But I wondered if that really was so. Maybe I've been making a huge misunderstanding. All this time I've thought that I hadn't met Azuru Kamakura even once. But I wonder if that really was the case. Maybe he's been watching over me all this time. Maybe the person I've been looking has been watching over me all this time. Wait, maybe he's been watching me over all this time. Maybe the person I've been looking has been watching over me all this time. Basically, Azuru Kamakura's true identity was Yuto Kamashiro. I immediately turned around, but Kamashiro-kun wasn't there. Wait, what? Is what is happening thing... Fuck off. Okay, What? What the fuck? No wonder he's so helpful. What the fuck? The moment I thought of that, my vision precedes Kamashiro-kun's appearance. He was crouching at my feet. No, he was more like kneeling down on the ground. But even so, our eyes met. I instantly jumped back. My shock towards such an illogical development. My horror towards such an incoherent result. I was going to say. The pressure on my skull began to grow to a point where it wouldn't be surprising if my nose started to bleed. And my nerves began trembling to the point where they wouldn't connect properly. Kamashiro-kun, unrelated to him kneeling down on the ground, was looking not at the floor, but at the ceiling. That's impossible. To turn one's head all the way around towards their back, that's impossible for a living human. Basically, that's what it was. He was already not one of the living. Whoa, that quickly? Kamashiro-kun, with his head turned 180 degrees back and glaring at the ceiling, was completely stiff. The only thing that appeared to be living was the red stream of blood dabbling out of his mouth. I wasn't expecting him to just die that fucking quickly. Just, whoa. Just instantly, just gone. Fuck. This was too much. Wait, he would already show no response to anyone's voice or anyone's words. This was too much for me. It was so much for me that the point where my conscience couldn't fully take on the scene of someone dying in front of me. Due to that, all my reactions slowed down. If this was true, I would have already ran away from here. After all, the first thing to come to mind would be the fact that the person who did this to Kamashiro-kun must be very close by. But I was too slow. Poor kid. A figure appeared next to the elevator. It was a slim, fair-skinned man, wearing a dirty shirt and pants out of Hope's Peak Academy. If only he didn't meddle with Junko Enishima's affairs, then maybe he wouldn't have met such a brutal end. Letting out those words with his face down, not one single emotion could be felt. Who are you? While I inquired, trembling, he lifted his face, if only he just noticed me. Are you talking to me? He looked exhausted. A face of someone who lost everything. The face of someone who lost all his thoughts, all his senses, all his emotions. You don't remember me? After the man responded with a cold voice, he spoke again with an even colder one. Why don't you remember? Why I don't remember? Well, I easily forget things. Struck by fear and confusion, I was completely fine. Hold on a minute. Flustered, I dropped my eyes towards Ryuko Otanashi's notebook. And it was at that moment I was hit by a wave of itchiness. That itchiness soon turned into pain. But it was a pain that brought fever. It was like a warning signal. The frictional heat coming from the conflict of remembering Ryuko Otanashi and the forgetting Ryuko Otanashi that was the cause of the pain. Does Azuru Kamakura ring any bells? Eh? Hearing the words coming from that unexpected murmur, the pain went away all at once. Is that true? The man right in front of me was Izuru Kamakura, the result of Hope's Peak Academy's collaborative effort, Hope's Peak Academy's symbol. The man known as Super High School Level Hope. Then why? He looked at me with eyes full of sadness, as if he was begging me to rescue him from a bottomless swamp. Why was he looking at me with such sad eyes? I don't know. But those eerie eyes caused me to avert my eyes from his without thinking. But my gaze landed on the eyes, seemingly searching for salvation, of the corpse of Kamashiro-kun, and I once again averted my eyes in a panic. It would have been better he didn't found out. Possibly following my gaze, he muttered as he looked down on Kamashiro-kun. It's just so instant, just out of nowhere. It's just like, oh, he's dead now, bye. If he didn't get involved, it wouldn't have ended this way. I felt like those words were aimed at me as well. I merely felt like as if my life was in danger. But you're different. Huh? Everything I've done so far, you have a need to know. A need to know? Huh? Why me? Before I could ask that question, he let out a big sigh. Besides, I also need more time to think. That's why I've decided to talk a bit more before I make my decision. Mumbling to himself as if he was only reciting from a script. Scared of his current state, I began to try looking around the room without getting noticed. But other than a ventilation duct, there didn't seem to be any place where I could escape to. The only exit was the elevator, in which Izuru Kamakura was standing, blocking the entrance. Well, I guess I should start with Junko Enoshima's goals. Scratching his head while speaking, he didn't seem to bother meeting my eyes. Rather, he seemed to be avoiding them. Hope Speak Academy's worst incident doesn't really mean much to Junko Enoshima in the first place. Huh? With just those words, my attention was fully drawn. Hope Speak Academy's worst incident doesn't mean much? Junko Enoshima just wanted to stir up the pent-up emotions of the preparatory department. She got the super high school level Hope involved in that incident solely for that reason, and then incited those guys. No, it wasn't something simple like inciting, it was brainwashing. Brainwashing? Pain along with the violent itching brought up that scene in my mind. The monitor visuals I saw past the Monokuma heads in the underground facility. Crushing heads, cut faces, agonizing screams, the mutual killing red lumps of flesh. She used me and the student council as sacrifices solely for that purpose. For the guys who were just treated as leftovers. She threw the school's proud elites into a game of mutual killing. It was truly the worst incident, wasn't it? Mutual killing? While bearing the tight tension that wrapped around my chest, taking my breath away, I squeezed the question out of myself. Mutual killing. What exactly do you mean? First of all, Hope Speak Academy's worst incident wasn't just simply a mass murder. It was mutual killing, instigated by Junko Enoshima. Instigated by Junko Enoshima? Mutual killing? Huh? Killing each other? Enoshima used the ex-school building due to its state as a closed-off vicinity, locked the student council and super high school Hope inside, and caused them to kill each other utilizing various traps. Scattering weapons, threatening to kill everyone if a murder didn't happen, murdering in plain sight to demonstrate a lesson, and so on. She was trying to make them doubt each other, to kill each other. It was almost like she just wanted an experiment. She really is messed up. Kamakura was talking as if it was someone else's affairs. Trapped between fear and confusion, all I could do was stand there and listen. And then we ended up killing each other. There was no hope of living. Enoshima had the preparatory department watch the school's prized students' council and super high school level Hope our disgusting methods of killing and staining each other with despair. Those scenes were vividly presented. He then paused and took a breath. But soon his emotionless voice once again echoed across the room. I'm sure she planned everything to have Izuru Kamakura survive at the end. It was the worst ending for the guys at the preparatory department, to see their hated super high school level Hope kill everyone else's Hope and survive. It must have been an especially bad ending for them. Not only that, the school hiding this sin was probably also what Junko Enoshima had planned. That's why the preparatory department grew not only to despise super high school level Hope, but the entire school. In the end, everything went completely as Junko Enoshima had planned. Everything followed her scenario perfectly. But for what reason? And for what reason did she brainwash the preparatory department? That must have been to destroy Hope Speak Academy as well. Not only that. Kamakura then finally looked at me. Peeking from the small opening in his long pitch black hair, he stared at me. Her goal is much more outrageous. Outrageous? To her, brainwashing the preparatory department was merely planting the seeds. The worst incident for Hope's Peak Academy? That's all that is to her. Kamakura mercilessly hurled those words towards me. I was controlled only for that purpose, and then destroyed. I was too late in realizing it. No, I was just desperately trying not to realize it. I didn't want to believe that she was so obsessed with despair. That's the truth. The despair-filled truth that I'm involved with this incident. Hey, what does... God damn it. Can't talk properly. Hey, what does you and Junko and Ashima have to do with it? What do I have to do with? His words were suddenly filled with intense emotion for just a moment. What does this incident mean to you? Are you going with your classic nothing to do with me? As if it has nothing to do with you? Why are you remembering it? If it really has nothing to do with you, then it'd be best to just let that memory be lost forever. Why does Kamakura know my saying? And how does he know about me remembering? I was right, wasn't I? About you remembering? That's why you can't remember me? You remembered that I wasn't a particularly important person to you, so that's why you can't remember? Kamakura then revealed his eyes. Their glint was tainted with deadly hatred. You're such a bitch. Huh? Then an impossible thought floated in my head. In order to deny that impossible thought, I asked, who are you? You're not Izuru Kamakura? Of course I'm not, you imbecile. Then he spitted out those words. I'm Yasuke Matsuda. I knew it was him from the moment that it said dirty shirt. But the long hair that Izuru has, Matsuda has all of that and everything. And he constantly refers to Ultimate Hope and Kamakura in the third person there. So it's like, it's not him. And that's why he's so frustrated that he doesn't remember. The one thing that she would always remember is him. And because she's remembering everything else, she can't remember him. Yeah, no wonder he's upset. No fucking wonder. Jesus. I'm gonna have to take a quick drink. Fuck. In the end, you didn't remember. You remembered other things. Just not me. Damn it, this is horrible. For you to believe me so easily when I said I was Kamakura. This really is just horrible. Does my existence barely mean anything to you? What? I didn't know what to say. An intense chill assaulted my spine. My teeth began to chatter like a drum. Are you really Matsuda-kun? The real Izuru Kamakura has been taken from me a long time ago. That means you and I are the only ones left. As if almost as if someone plans this all out. That impossible string of thought that floated in my head took the form of a concrete truth. I desperately opened up Ryuko Otonashi's notebook and flipped through the pages in a frenzy, searching for anything that would deny this impossible truth. Then, after a while, my hand stopped. In the notebook were an amazing amount of portraits detailing Matsuda-kun. Looking up and confirming the individual in front of me one more time, the scattered puzzle pieces in my thought immediately were placed back together. But why? How come I'm not... The heartbeat in my chest, the rise of emotions. I know. You're not feeling anything. Ironically, those words proved that he was Matsuda-kun. After all, the only person who knew my method in recognizing Matsuda-kun was Matsuda-kun himself. That's because you're beginning to remember things again. Because you've begun to regain your memory. You've stopped thinking about me. In the end, that shows how much my existence wasn't anything special to you. But you forgot about that fact. That's why you're filled with such emotion towards me. Matsuda-kun isn't important to me? Because I forgot that. I thought he was important to me? What are you talking about? I don't get it. Then that intense itching sensation entered my brain again. I remembered. The things I would have said to Matsuda-kun when meeting him. The things I would have done when meeting him. Why I even wanted to meet him so bad in the first place. I remembered the reasons for everything. What is this? Why? Suddenly, I wasn't able to believe anything. Not Matsuda-kun, not myself, not even the world. I spontaneously began stepping back, but those legs immediately began to stop. Behind me stood a wall blocking my way, so I just stopped and stood there. Matsuda-kun began taking steps as if pursuing me, impatiently moving forward. Matsuda-kun, what's wrong? I cried out with a voice tinged with terror. He responded with a pale face. Tension building to the point where it could take my breath away. Filled with fear, I spoke that name. Could it be Junko Enoshima's fault? He stopped in his tracks and stared at me with a piercing glare. Ah, that must be it. That sharp glare felt as if it pierced my entire body. These are Matsuda-kun's eyes? Are you really Matsuda-kun? I quickly swallowed those words, almost coming out of my throat. I could tell that they would only make matters worse. Hey, Matsuda-kun, let's stop this. Being caught up by Matsuda-kun like this, pleading was all I could do. How about we just head back to the laboratory? We could just relax and chat while you perform your treatment on me. If we do that, everything will go back to normal. By the end of my pleading, my voice changed into a scream. After all, this is just wrong. It has to be wrong. It's already too late. But Matsuda-kun turned his head back. I can't go back anymore. Neither you nor I. We can't go back. Hearing his freezing voice, my whole body quickly began to grow cold. Why are you saying that? Why are you spouting these cruel words? Continuing with that freezing voice, he began with rage and irritation. You still can't remember what I've done to protect Junko Enoshima? I see. Then I'll make you remember. It's alright, let's just forget about this and get away from this place. Nothing will change, even if we forget. No one knows better than you do. I don't know anything. Reaching my limit, I shrieked with all my might. But Matsuda-kun, without paying it mind. Alright, just hear me out. But why was he speaking with such a sad face? I'm the sad one here. Hope's Peak Academy's worst incident. Everything changed because of it. No, I finally realized it because of that incident. The fact that my life, which I thought was completely normal, was actually a fake scenario set up to control me. Those words were not directed towards anyone, not even me, but towards himself. I've been fooled by Junko Enoshima all this time. Completely fooled. But even so, I couldn't stay away from her. I thought I could save her. I thought I'd be able to stop her. That's what I was made to believe. His voice immediately began to stain with bitterness. In order to protect her, I concealed her existence itself. But regardless of that, she went ahead and killed the committee board members. That's why I went as far as to hide those corpses. I dealt with the evidence for her sake. As my eyes took in his words, my mind began playing through all the scenes that had occurred up to this point. There was no time to even feel the itching. Not only that, I even murdered people for her sake. In order to silence Soshun Murasame, who knew the truth about the incident, it's the same with that Yuto Kamashiro. For her sake, I couldn't let them live. That's why I killed them. I was completely submerged by the torrent of truth blasting out of Matsuda-kun, but there was something I needed to know no matter what. I struggled to keep my head above the waves as I attempted to answer my question. Is she really that important? Junko Enoshima is really that important to you? She is. Matsuda-kun responded with no hesitation. But why is she so important to you? As my tears of confusion and fear pushed me against the flood, I struggled forward as I frantically raised my feeble voice. It's because of what she said to me. What she said to me when I lost what was once important to me. From now on, I'll be what's important to you. It was ridiculously impudent. But thanks to the impudence, I was prevented from being all alone. She's not family, a lover, or even a friend. But she's someone just as important to me as any of those. Just as important as any of those. That's how Matsuda-kun felt about Junko Enoshima. It felt like everything was over. No, rather, everything was over from the beginning. I had no chance of winning from the start. Someone who had no past had no chance of competing with Junko Enoshima. Frustration, jealousy, there was none of that. It's over, was all I could feel. I let out a huge breath. Contained in that breath was my resignation to the entire world. And then it happened. A clashing sound could be heard, and Matsuda-kun instantly turned around. The scene past his shoulder was laid out for me. I could see a girl standing in the elevator. Looks like I was right on time. With showy makeup as if straight from a fashion magazine and hugely inflated fluffy blonde hair, the uniform was popped open enough for a ridiculous amount of cleavage, along with an insanely short skirt from which slender white legs ran down. Junko Nishima! I shouted out with confidence. Junko Nishima? Matsuda-kun mumbled, mixed with doubt. Huh? Oh, it's not like I came here to get in your way or anything. Without even a word being said, she began explaining herself. I just came here to provide the supplementary explanation. It appears to be the right scenario for this. The blonde-haired girl with showy makeup unmatchingly spoke in a hesitant manner. Wait, isn't that kind of weird? Well, this is the explanation. You can probably tell from my appearance, but needs be that I am to follow Junko-chan's scenario, only to enact this part. Yeah, that's what this is. There was once again that severe itching. It was so bad I felt like I wanted to claw my hands into my brain. And then immediately after that, along with feeling like my vision opened up, I remembered. I remembered the face of the girl standing in front of me. This face I've been seeing was not Junko Enoshima, but someone else. That's right. That would be Mukuro Ikusaba's face. But at the same time, another question floated up in my head. If the me right now is able to recognize Mukuro Ikusaba, what about the past forgetful me? Showy makeup, blonde hair, popped open uniform, insanely short skirt. If I saw that disguised girl, would I be able to connect things and realize it's Mukuro Ikusaba? Then does this mean the Junko Enoshima I've known all this time? I'm sorry. The girl bowed her head. To explain things, the Junko Enoshima you've met was really me disguised as her. Disguised basically as a fake? But it's not like I did that just because I wanted to. It's because Junko-chan told me to. That's why even my lines were set up by Junko-chan. Then, what about the real Junko Enoshima? So this is the most important part, but the reason why I did all this was because I hid Junko Enoshima, right? Matsuda-kun's irritated words interrupted her. Because I hid Junko Enoshima, the real her is gone. And taking advantage of that, you became Junko Enoshima. Doing so, you made this one believe in Junko Enoshima's existence? What are you guys talking about? Make me believe in Junko Enoshima's existence? But why? I was completely lost. Basically, Enoshima anticipated my actions. She saw through my plan in hiding her, and is now spectating my actions in amusement. Spectating? I frantically looked around the hall. There must have been something here indicating that someone was spectating us, but there weren't any peeping holes or hidden cameras anywhere. Huh? Why? This is ridiculous. To think she'd be this driven by despair. I don't want to believe this, but she must have gotten near me at some point. Whatever he was about to say, it quickly faded away. I was already incapable of understanding his feelings. His frustration towards Junko Enoshima, his resentment against Junko Enoshima, to the point of despair. I couldn't understand anything. But there was one thing that was clear to me. Once again, to the point of despair, very clear to me. He must love her, but at the same time, hate her, right? That's right. Matsuda-kun quietly nodded. He confirmed my thoughts. I was right to give up. There was nothing I could but give up and let everything end. This is the end of my world. This is the end of the world of Matsuda-kun and I. The moment I gave up, the curtains of my soul began to slowly fall. Thump. Huh? That's why I have to end this. While covering his face with both hands, Matsuda-kun let out a huge sigh. He then lifted his face with eyes brimming with unwavering determination. It's likely that my desire to protect her was true despair. That's why unless I end this, my despair won't end either. That was the voice of someone who gave up on everything. That's why I have no choice but to end this. His eyes were full of anger, sadness, love, and hatred, all boiled and concentrated together. But even then, there was a mysterious calmness expressed on his face. Thump, thump. Huh? But why? I didn't want Junko Enoshima to get involved with others. I thought I'd be protecting her that way. Matsuda-kun began to close our distance at a slow pace. That's why I hid her. That's why I desperately tried to hide her. Thump, 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 thump. As Matsuda-kun drew closer, the beats in my heart grew louder and louder. But it was pointless. My actions did nothing. What I did meant nothing to Enoshima. In the end, there was nothing she could do but inflict despair on anyone involved in her. That's why this is despair. The fact that I finally understand that. I finally understand as well. The thumping in my chest. I just now remembered. The moment I gave up on everything, I remembered my feelings towards Mitsuda-kun. This must be because of the scenario Junko Enoshima set up. In order for despair, she had to finally remember it. That's why I've decided to end things once and for all. Mitsuda-kun finally stopped in front of my eyes. The distance between us was to the point where our feet almost touched. And while I felt the continuous heartbeat in my chest, I felt dizzy with blood rushing to my head as I looked at him. Then, as if about to embrace me, he took those hands and squeezed them around my neck. I was done for. There must have been no other way. After all, Junko Enoshima was an important existence for him. Seeing how no one loved Mitsuda-kun more than I did, I understood that. But to the very end, I wanted to die in the world of Mitsuda-kun and I. That was the hope I embraced to the very end. This is also for the sake of Junko Enoshima? With that faint hope in my chest, I timidly asked that question. No, this is for my sake. His calm response surprised even me. I've already accepted this. I've already completely accepted Ryuko Otonashi's end. You don't need to remember anything anymore. I could feel his warm breath on my cheeks as he spoke those gentle words. This is the end of everything. Yeah, I know. After all, this has nothing to do with me, right? He then calmly began to put force into his hands. But I wasn't in pain. In fact, the warmth coming from the palms of his hands felt comfortable. I was most likely smiling. Thump, 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 thump. My raging heartbeat, my entire body heating up, intense ringing in my ears. I guess I was at least a bit scared, but Mitsuda-kun's face in front of me seemed to be gentle, as he released his extreme stress. It really is Mitsuda-kun. As I burned that face into my memory, I slowly closed my eyes. I'll be done at this rate. Everything will be over. It will finally not be over. It was all of a sudden. That familiar, sinister laughing voice began to echo within my ears. Come on, I've said it before, haven't I? I'd murder you bastards one day. I've come to fulfill that promise. Don't tell me you've forgotten. That giddy voice forced my eyes open, and all I saw was Mitsuda-kun's surprised face. I could see a black figure standing behind him. Super high school level despair. Walking from behind Mitsuda-kun, she slowly approached my face. When she got close enough to the point where she was lined up with Mitsuda-kun, the face within the figure finally presented itself to me. I could remember it now. That face was me. That's right, Ryuko Otonashi never even existed in the first place. Hilarious, isn't it? It's so despair-inducing that it's hilarious. That voice that rang out was of myself. By the very end, I remembered. And I was right. Yeah, well, when I threw 16 guesses at the wall, one of them was right. I finally remembered everything. At the same time, everything crumbled apart. The scenery I perceived to be an immutable existence, easily, and then completely crumbled apart. It was like that Sans castle. No matter how elaborate or stable it appeared to be, it easily crumbled apart like that Sans castle. My entire body's skin, muscle, bones, all the dry sands crumbled apart, and I faded away. Everything crumbled away and went back to normal. My world ended, and her world was created. That would be my, Ryuko Otonashi's, final moment. Then, everything finally returned to normal. I have a drink before we get to the end of this, holy shit. Lemon cordial. The strength within those hands gradually began to weaken as energy left the entire body. Then Mitsuda finally relinquished his grip on that girl. Clang. A sound rang out from the ground. It was a knife tainted by blood. It was a knife engraved with the Hope Speak Academy's emblem. Blood could be seen dripping down around it, and soon it developed into a sizable pool of red. Putting my hand towards my stomach, I could feel a warm sensation. Matsuda then returned his eyes to that girl. "Listen, you bitch," he spoke while suffering. "Before I die, you should know that what I told you was a lie. That wasn't any kind of treatment. I've been preventing you from remembering anything at all. I already know that." I then heard that voice. The mouth of that girl who responded began to swerve. It must have been a smile, smiling from the taste of the knife that pierced Matsuda-kun's flesh. And that's when Matsuda confirmed it. The fact that the person known as Ryuko Otonashi no longer exists. By the way, Mikuro Ikasaba's murmuring voice could be heard. "I was only supposed to appear in Junko-chan's likeness in front of the real one, but I accidentally got caught by Madarai at one point. But I didn't really get caught by anyone else. Obviously." Matsuda coughed up blood along with his resentful voice. Anybody who knew would easily be able to tell. Even if you are sisters, you two are still different people. Besides, the Anashima who appeared before me is definitely the real one. Hearing the words different people, Ikusaba, as if annoyed, turned her eyes away from him and instead placed them on the only girl that on only that girl and spoke. That's why, for this case, besides me being disguised as Junko-chan, the real Junko-chan conducted her own secret plans as well. It's just that she herself did not even realize that, meaning Junko-chan was deceived by herself. In the end, everything went just as planned, from the very beginning straight to the end. Matsuda spoke to that girl as well. While speaking, his consciousness was beginning to fade away, and just standing appeared to be a struggle. But even so, his frail gaze continued to focus on that girl. "But there's one thing I don't understand. Why you planned such a troublesome turn of events. Why you went so far to have me take away your memory, in order to escape investigation from the school. It doesn't sound pleasant at all. But even so, you were able to push through all of it. Then why?" Failing to keep his ground, he finally sat down, but Matsuda continued his interrogation, resolute on obtaining his answer. "Was it to pull me, who was always thinking of you, into despair?" That girl then began to finally move. She gently caressed his face with her hand in an almost lovingly way, and sat down next to him, paying no matter to the blood spread around the area. She then drew Matsuda's face, whose eyes were beginning to drift away, towards her own and whispered, "I'll tell you." That whisper was filled with a gentle feeling of love, but it soon radically changed. "Are you fucking kidding me? Don't get so ahead of yourself. There's no way in hell I'd go through this pain in the ass mess just to bring you into despair. What the hell are you thinking?" As soon as those words finished, that girl immediately thrusted her hand away from Matsuda's face. Doing so, Matsuda collapsed onto the pool of blood he created. "You don't give a damn, is what you're saying, huh?" Matsuda muttered those words as he laid on his back, gazing towards the ceiling. Staring at that face from straight above was that girl. Their faces were close enough for the tips of their noses to easily touch. But even so, his gaze didn't exactly match up with hers, as he began to absent-mindedly falter. "I guess I don't have anything to do with this, that really was the case after all." Because of the overflowing blood, I felt an unnatural warmth developing the black back of my throat. But that soon faded away. "How long have you felt that way? Has it been since we were children?" Poo. That girl's face then warped into a cruel smile. "What if I told you that the reason that your mum got that way was because of me? What kind of face would you show me?" What? Pain as if a sharp needle passed through her eyes was displayed. You're not serious, are you?" As he spoke with that shivering voice, bits of blood splattered onto that girl's face from his mouth. It stood out more than ever, her cruel, inhumane smile. "Answer me." While Matsuda grew more and more grave, Anashima on the other hand seemed to fall into ecstasy. Without giving any response, that girl just continued to watch as she cupped her chin in her hands. Mitsuda's soul was falling into the depths of despair. His own meaning of life was thoroughly and decisively violated, and was then rejected. He had completely given into despair. Please, respond. His clinging words barely formed into words at all. Come on, what's your answer, Junko Enoshima? That was the end. Without ever hearing his answer, Yasuke Matsuda died. Completely submerged in despair, he died. Fuck. Once she confirmed everything had ended, Junko Enoshima slowly got up. But she ceased her actions and decided to look down for a while longer. She stared at the Yasuke Matsuda, who had experienced his last breath not too long ago. There's no way this would have nothing to do with me. There was a hint of sadness laid somewhere in that murmuring voice. After all, you were the most important person to me of all. Those were her true feelings. Yasuke Matsuda was an especially important existence for Junko Enoshima. Ever since they were children, he always stood up for her, always continued to unconditionally love her, and above all, just being by his side made her heart feel warm. But she killed off that existence with her own hands. She stepped on it, forced it past the gates of despair, and brutally murdered it. This is. But that is what Enoshima had desired. She loved him so much, that irreplaceable existence, more important than anyone else, almost obsessed with him to the point of insanity, always wanting to be within his embrace, even living in a world with only him would be fine, and by losing that incredible existence, just how much despair would I fall in? She nurtured her love for Mitsuda all this time, just to get a taste of that feeling. Seeing her loved one be smothered by despair during his last moments, she pretty much lived to experience that spectacle. Finally getting to taste that despair. Incredible! It was more than anything she could have hoped for. Too depressing, too good. My chest is gonna tear open. This is true self-loathing. I want to die. This is the despair that comes from losing a loved one. While Enoshima being assaulted by that despair, she kicked Yasuke Matsuda's corpse with all her strength. Amazing. While absorbed in screaming, she kicked the corpse of the one she so dearly longed for with no mercy whatsoever. Flowing out of her eyes was a continuous stream of tears, while those tears of delight, lament, and confusion overwhelmingly flowed, kicked her beloved corpse until it was a lump of meat, barely holding any resemblance to its original form. It's fun. It's fun to be able to just do that. Fuck. When Kirigiri, we're back to her. Wow, okay. Opened her eyes, she found herself in the infirmary. That scene outside the window portrayed nightfall. It seemed that at some point, the day had reached evening. As Kyoko slowly rose out of bed. Looks like you're awake. A man's voice could be coming from the window. It belonged to Hope's Peak Academy's principal, Jin Kirigiri. You were completely knocked out. Has work finally caught up to you? How long have I been asleep? I wouldn't stay put, so I had the school physician give you some medicine. It should still be infected, so things may be a bit hazy. You should probably just relax for now. My consciousness and sensations were certainly still a bit dim. Following orders from him was frustrating, but there isn't much one can do against the effects of medicine. With no other choice, Kyoko laid back down in the bed. And she remembered. She remembered the moment when Mikuru Ikusawa came to assist her. Being cornered by the Madara brothers, she appeared at just the right time and saved her. But why did she save her? Sure, they were classmates, but there was hardly any occasions of social interaction between them. Putting that outside, however, there was a more pressing issue at hand. The girl that was with her when attacked by the Madara brothers, Junko Enoshima. What happened to her? She tackled that question in her mind in a very Kirigiri-like manner. Then, It appears she was rescued by Ikusaba-kun as well. I'll save you the trouble of overthinking things. She's been temporarily hospitalized at one of the medical facilities in the teaching staff faculty building, sorry. Although the silver lining is, well, how would I say this? Due to the shock from that incident, it seems that she's recovered her memory. Memory? She'll soon return to her regular school schedule, but it seems like she doesn't remember anything from when she lost her memory. Because that, there have been numerous confusing issues going on, and everyone has been taking care of her. I see. A classmate returning to class should have been a joyous occasion, but something didn't feel right. Like something was being overdone. Also, there's something important I have to discuss with you. His following words then completely brushed off Kyoko's doubt. I'll be closing the investigation request on Izuru Kamakura. Huh? Kyoko immediately rose up from the sudden report. Why all of a sudden? Her question was one of urgency. Sorry, but I can't really talk about that. What are you... Okay, fine. I wasn't satisfied with the contents of your work. How does that work for you? Recognizing his lack of acknowledgement, Kyoko scrunched her eyebrows in inquisitiveness. Then, what happened to Kamakura? Speaking of which, just today the new committee board members got inaugurated to replace the old ones. Don't avoid the subject. Due to the members changing, decisions involving confidential information have increased. No matter what you have to say, I don't really have much freedom to be carelessly discussing our secrets. That statement was a clear refusal. Hearing those words, all Kyoko could do was respond with a murmur of resentment. Why are you telling me this now? Alright, in return, how about I reveal to you this confidential information we've been talking about? That is, if your pride as a detective will allow it. His words were almost like a challenge. He was being like that for quite a while. The words, "you were just being used this whole time," were likely. That kind of thought process was simple, but there was a feeling that the reason behind it couldn't be so simple. But what caused that feeling? Was it the intuition of a detective? Or was it because he was her father? She immediately shook her head. Shaking off that last train of thought, she roughly responded. I understand. I don't mind giving up on the request. However, there is one thing I would like to know. Kirigiri was watching from outside the mirror. Kirigiri was watching from outside the mirror in silence. What happened to Yasuke Matsuda and the Madurai brothers? A moment of silence passed, and Kirigiri let out a hefty sigh. He then turned his eyes and began walking towards the door of the infirmary. Kyoko followed his movements carefully with her eyes. He then stopped in front of the door, and without explanation turning his back, he spoke. Expulsion. That's how it seems they were dealt with. His words felt heavy, and a hint of anger could be heard among them as well. Not only that, it was the new committee board members' intention as well, to strictly conceal the incident under the darkness. Those involved, Matsuda-kun and Madurai-kun, were expelled, and soon others will follow as well. You aren't going to stop them? All I did was receive the report. They're not even in the school building anymore. Even you probably would have difficulty in tracking them down. Letting out another huge sigh, Kirigiri began to grind his teeth. Although, it sure was a convenient development, convenient to the point where one would think someone was manipulating the events from the shadows. But he quickly turned his head, as if he regretted what he just said. Even without any formal request, I'll still be looking into it. Aimed towards the back of Kirigiri were words full of determination. Hearing those words, he responded without turning her back. Detectives can't do anything until an incident ends. They're useless until all the victims show up. That's a trait that exists within even the most expert detectives. But I think you're different. I feel qualities coming from you that exceed ones of a detective. Those are words coming from witnessing your various talents up to this point. I think I'll be keeping them in mind. What are you trying to say? Kyoko left out a stiff voice. There's no need for apprehending. Kirigiri looked past his shoulder, towards Kyoko, who was tight-lipped with anger, and an expression close to tears. One last thing. You're free to investigate on your own. However, if you happen to endanger yourself or attempt to bypass the school rules, I won't plan to show any mercy. Prepare yourself. If you can't keep that in mind, you'll be leaving this school. Without waiting for any response from Kyoko, Kirigiri left the infirmary. When entering the hallway, he let out another huge sigh. Even though he was trying to keep her away from the incident for her own good, it still pained him. But she wasn't the type to just happily listen to orders. There wasn't anything that could be done about that. That's a girl. The situation was already out of Kirigiri's hands. Let me scroll. Thank you. Just like the ex-committee board members who disappeared, the new ones would eventually become figures of value position in their various fields. Soon after their inauguration, the termination of the Kamakura project was announced. It was their way of saying that the existence known as super high school level hope never existed. It wasn't a very surprising turnabout. Kirigiri became the core, and the symbol of hope that Hope Speak Academy raised and nurtured all these years was abandoned unceremoniously. Following these actions, the new community board members decided decisions and plans were quick and prompt. Through various methods, they were able to construct concealment of the incident. It appears they were instructed by some other party. All of a sudden, Kirigiri began to pick up pace as he continued down the hallway. While walking at a brisk pace, he inadvertently glanced towards the window. The idea that everything had ended was not present. Rather, it felt like it was the start of a new turn of events. Most likely, not a good turn of events. A horrible incident was going to occur from this school, and then consume the world. No one would be able to stop that. From that prediction, Kirigiri felt an uncharacteristic chill creep on. But Kirigiri's decision was already set in place. For the sake of the students, it might be time to speed up that plan. An area where even the new committee board members would not catch wind of if there was no other choice than the ex-school building. With that thought in mind, Kirigiri began to fall into a dash, but he didn't realize it. He didn't realize what was happening to himself. His mouth was beginning to faintly bend. He must have been able to sense it. The talent holding the ability to throw the world into chaos was lurking somewhere in Hope Speak Academy. That was possibly why he was trembling from being enveloped by interest in this existence. But even so, he had no way of knowing what laid ahead. Eventually, that real talent will inflict despair across the world, and that very despair will trample across even himself. But Jin Kirigiri was still completely unaware. Back from her long period of absence, the first thing taken care of when returning to her dorm room was applying the makeup. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, Junko Enoshima saw despair. Geez, Matsuda-kun sure had horrible taste. Reflecting in the mirror was simply a plain, normal, and uninteresting female high school student. To think something like this was of value for despair. I don't know if he picked something up from his mother or something, going over the sense of a loved one in despair while applying makeup. She next began to tidy up the room, beginning with picking up numerous post-it notes saying, "This is my room." And then Ryuko Otanashi notebook. Looking at this notebook brought back memories of Yasuke Matsuda. Remembering him, she could feel her chest tightening. Consumed by disgust at what she did to him, she was compelled to cry and scream out. I want to forget this already. I just want to get rid of this notebook. Aha! All the more reason to keep this on hand. With an indescribable expression somewhere between woe and excitement, she flips through the pages. Suddenly, her hand stopped. On that page laid a ridiculous amount of likeness portraits of Yasuke Matsuda. These horrible drawings are surprisingly heartrending. How exciting. As expected, it seems that her heart's wound wouldn't heal anytime soon. But that's how it should be. After all, she went so out of her way to lose her memory to taste this despair. Speaking of which, that wasn't the only reason she had her memory lost. There was another goal in mind. That reason was within the notebook within Enoshima's hands. Reports on Matsuda's methods in manipulating her memory were recorded in that very notebook. That was her other reason. Memory manipulation was required for the final stage of her plan to inflict further despair. That's why she wanted to test it. That's why she wanted to test it on herself. She arranged for Matsuda to take away her memory, resulting in becoming a subject to that memory manipulation. I guess this is all one can expect from just an experiment. Just becoming forgetful is only halfway progress. I guess Matsuda-kun didn't try hard enough. Well, once I take care of her, I'm sure it'll turn out perfectly. Taking over a loved one's lovely research, I'll be sure to make use of it in the most despair-inducing way possible. Her other reason for using Matsuda was for this experiment. For that experiment, she anticipated Matsuda's actions and then proceeded to move freely within her own convenience. That goes for others as well. She anticipated the results of everything and manipulated those events as well. By doing this, she finished her perfect development. It was the same for even Enoshima herself. She was able to control even her own actions and experience the greatest taste of despair. Yoo-hoo, I'm back! Suddenly, a strange voice rang out as the door to the room flew open. Standing at the door was a blonde-haired girl, the one who was disguised as Junko Enoshima, Makuru Ikusaba. With expression displayed on her face, her cheeks rose and formed a huge smile. You were surprised? I was hoping to surprise you a bit in the commemoration for your return. Do you think I'm retarded? But Enoshima freezingly shot back. Are you trying to raise the tension or something? What are you going to do if someone sees you dressed like that? Are you going to take responsibility for that? Heck, are you even capable of doing that? I'm sorry. As if completely withered, her shoulders crumpled. Also, you barely even look like me. Are you even trying? In fact, do I even look that retarded? Do I? But I followed Junko-chan's written instructions completely. I see you can't do anything unless told. You really are retarded. I'm really sorry. As she hurried to get changed, her eyes were completely blurred with tears. Man, and you still have that ridiculously skinny body. If you have time to perform the military, you should try getting a body that men will actually like. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad anymore. While watching her sister's shoulders shake like a puppy being scolded, Enoshima once again stuck out her tongue. Geez, I really got to rethink how I'm going to use this one. Besides Enoshima having her sister disguise herself as Enoshima to fool her amnesiac self, there was of course one other goal. It was another experiment. Mikuru Ikusaba's disguise was a key component in her future plan to inflict further despair. Memory manipulation was also an experiment. Mikuru Ikusaba's disguise was also an experiment. No, there was more. Forcing high school students into mutual killing and showing that visual to others to spread despair. That was, once again, an experiment. Everything was an experiment put into practice, killing two birds with one stone. That's what Hope's Peak Academy's worst incident meant to Junko Enoshima. Furthermore, the murder of the committee board members were part of that as well. Besides forcing the location of Kamakura out of them, Enoshima wanted them to be replaced. Although the experiment this time around overall felt like it was missing some excitement, was it too psychotic? I wonder if I can make it even more excitingly psychotic. I guess forcing mutual killing right away is too stiff. Maybe I should make it a game of some sort. Yeah, that way the murders might get a lot more dramatic. Of course, a mascot is necessary as well. For this experiment, those brainwashed were dressed in some sort of cartoon character outfit, but that was no good. That was just tasteless. There's room for tons of improvement. Well, so... Abruptly, Ikusaba's voice spoke out. Huh? What do you want? And Enoshima clicked her tongue as she listened to what she had to say. Why didn't you hand over Izuru Kamakura over to the preparatory department? Hearing that, Enoshima clicked her tongue even louder. Man, you really are retarded. If they got to kill Kamakura, then they'd be satisfied just like that. That's no good. I want their uneasiness, complaints, and dissatisfaction to build up and then explode all at once. Then they'd show their worth by becoming a mob, right? That's what they're there for. Oh, I see. A bitter smile revealed itself on Ikusaba's face as she nodded in understanding. Then, does that mean Kamakura is no longer needed? I don't really have anything in mind right now, but, well, nothing's gonna happen if we just leave him be anyway. Besides, it's not like super high school level Hope anymore. He's someone who has fallen into the depths of despair. That was, again, another result that followed her prediction. In the end, everything moved along with Enoshima's will. Everything felt perfectly in line with what Enoshima's ambition was. Well, this experiment allowed me to taste despair, so I could say it was a success. But a little part in her still had hoped for something else. She'd hoped that the plan she worked so hard to concoct would fall into pieces despairingly. This time it wasn't like that, but maybe someday I'll be able to taste that flavor of despair. She even sowed some seeds for the purpose of that possibility occurring. I really am amazing, aren't I? Without thinking, she erupted into laughter. I even prepared a flag for myself when I would lose. I'm the very definition of a mastermind. Don't you think so, sister? Yes, but your way of talking. I got tired of this personality. How many fucking years have you been my sister? Shifting to a violent personality and shouting at her sister Ikusaba, she soon gave up on that as well and then began staring towards the window. What's wrong? Despite Ikusaba's worried voice, she continued to stare at the window. Out there was a parade. Like a surging tidal wave. The parade was flowing through the school dorms. I wonder what those in class are thinking looking at this right now. I wonder if they're experiencing the death of their hope. Enoshima quickly stood up and spoke with an energized voice. Alright, now that the tension is off the charts, let's go head to class. Our beloved classmates are waiting for us. Okay. Just like that, Enoshima momentarily returned to her school life. It was annoying getting friendly with the others, but soon the spice of unbelievable despair will scatter about. Anyway, I'm getting pretty excited. Alright, let's enjoy the rest of our school life to its fullest. After all, That was her true motive. Thus, the keywords were set. The flag was raised. Mutual killing, ex-school building, brainwashed preparatory department, super high school level Hope, class 78, Hope's Peak Academy Committee Board, principal, memory manipulation, Mikuro Ikusaba's disguise, Monokuma. It all begins from here. The plan to create the strongest despair all starts from here. The world's most despair-inducing incident starts from here. Predicting what will occur is simple, but not doing so would be more interesting. A stronger taste of despair will come on that way. But can I hold on for that long? What should I do? Just picturing that despair caused Enoshima's heart to jump. Because super high school level Junko Enoshima wishes for despair above anything else. Finds hope within despair more than anything else. Finds hope? What the hell? Me finding hope? Realizing that she had been embracing hope, she fell into despair. Damn! Ooh, okay. So that's the purpose of Danganronpa 0. I was wondering going through this, and it's like it's setting up the parade and everything. It's just like, what's it doing? What's its function here? What's this story about? And it's basically explaining that everything here is a test run for both of her plans for the next 2 games. Well, Kamakura's directly related to the, like, I mean, I guess it all ties into 1, because in 2, it's like the AI and everything, but she had that planned out. Nothing about here has anything to do with the AI, but alter ego becomes a thing during 1, so that kind of goes into there, and Kamakura is directly a part of that. So everything like that, but yeah, this entire story is just her giving herself a test for how everything's gonna work. Everything that happens in this is, like, just a smaller version of what happens in the next game. And also a way for her to give herself some experience of despair by killing Matsuda. It's why she kills Mukuro in Danganronpa 1. Because Mukuro is someone that she genuinely cares about. So she genuinely feels despair killing her. Damn. Like, it's such a long way to go out of her way. And also, this explains a big part of Junko's ability. What's Ryuko's, like, talent? Analyst. That's actually what Junko's talent is. The reason that she's able to set up everything so perfectly, and, like, this story and all the other stories from this point on, the reason they all work so perfectly is because she's the ultimate analyst. She's able to just look at things and work out things ahead of time and just be like, yeah, this is going to work out like this and this and this and this. And I can predict exactly what everyone's going to do and what everything is going to happen at all times because my actual talent is perfect analyst. To the point where she's even able to analyze herself when she forgets her memories. So, yeah, a couple questions I have on my mind are the Junko that talks with Matsuda and kisses him. Is that Mukuro, or is that Ryuko at a point where her memory has come back? Also, Kyoko was able to work out that Ryuko was Junko. And I don't know if anyone else ever did that. Well, I mean, outside of, like, Mukuro and Matsuda, but they know that. But I don't think a single other person was able to work out that Ryuko was Junko. I don't think anyone was able to, except for her. Because she mentions it's like the other girl that was with her, Junko, what happened to her? And she's referring to when all the Madrais are attacking them. Like, shit. Like, I mean, we know Kyoko's real fucking good, but she's real fucking good to be able to work that one out. I mean, no one else did. Actually, I think Kamishiro did towards the end. I think Kamishiro had a suspicion towards the end that Ryuko was Junko. When they're going down into the elevator and doing everything like that, the way that he's talking, it seems like he has a hint of an idea that Ryuko is Junko, but it's whether it's a suspicion or whether he knows or not is there, but Kyoko explicitly knows. And yeah, Azuru's not even the culprit of the incident that killed all those people. It was just a mutual killing game that Azuru just happened to be a part of and survived. Okay. So it's just, like... It's hard for me to collect my thoughts about this story outside of just what happened. Because, I mean, it just explains things there, but it's like, damn. I will say, there are parts earlier in it where, like, it gets a bit slow and it gets a bit tedious and it drags it out a bit too long in earlier parts. This entire final chapter is pretty goddamn good at keeping it moving forward and exploring either themes or characters. Like, that entire scene where Mitsuda comes down the elevator and confronts Ryuko, and then Ryuko gains her memory back and then kills him. All of that is fucking fantastic. That is really, really, really well done. To just, like, getting into the mind of Junko and her plan and everything like that, and what Mitsuda means to her and everything. Like, at the very end, she turns around and is just like, why the fuck would I go through all of this effort just to bring you to spare? You're nowhere near important enough for me to bother with that. And she's lying. She's lying about that just to make him feel worse. And just giving a hint of, oh, by the way, the reason that your mum got fucked is because of me. And not even, like, not giving an answer. Because I believe if she gave an answer that said, yes, it was me, he wouldn't believe it. But not giving any answer at all gives enough doubt for him to just feel even worse. Just even more despair. It's just like, fuck. No, definitely worthwhile reading this. Super worthwhile reading it. That is, it gives a little bit more insight into how things led up to that point, and yeah, like when you look at it in hindsight, where the entire novel is about Junko, it gives you an idea of just what Junko's done to get to the point where Danganronpa 1 even happens. And it's pretty good at doing that. And just like, there's so many plots and conspiracies and everything happening in this story, and overall to her, they're just like, the main thing for her is that she got the parade to start. All of the others, it didn't really matter. As long as they resulted in the parade, it was fine. She didn't really care. But even that idea of, she kind of hoped that this plan would fall apart so she could feel despair. And then she realizing that she's embracing hope and falling into despair and everything like that, and just super getting into her characteristic and everything like that. So it's like, damn. So there's also that aspect of her where it's just like, she is super analyst, which we kind of knew before, but now it's confirmed. She's able to predict everything to a superhuman degree. You can see why, like, the despair that she gets from things going her way is not the greatest despair that she can feel. Like, she mentions here, she sets up a thing of, what if she fails? Because if she feels the despair that she laid out, it's like, yeah, it's super despair-inducing, but it means that she was able to predict everything perfectly, and everything went as she planned it to. So she would definitely find it way more interesting if everything went wrong. Which is what the end of Danganronpa 1 is, and it's because of Makoto, like, super hope, in a completely different regard, is able to confront her with that. And it's just, it really gets into even more of the characteristic of Junko, which is always a good thing, because Junko is both a really interesting character in terms of everything about her personality is twisted into a very specific way with, like, singular focused goal to drive these plots to go to absurdly high degrees of just, how fucked is this going to get by the end? Why is Junko going to do that? Oh, because she literally just wants bad things to happen. She has no greater goal, so the end results can just be completely and utterly fucked. Like, her personality and her characteristics are very much both to drive the plot, But she has a level of depth to her character as well. Not as much as some other characters or other villains, but she has a depth to her character of it's not just solely I want bad things to happen for the sole purpose of bad things happening, but she enjoys bad things happening, and she enjoys bad things happening because she's able to enjoy good things. There's that, it's not just I want bad things to happen because bad things are fun. It's just like, I want bad things to happen because I genuinely feel bad about it because I'm also able to enjoy things. And it's that weird dynamic. I mean, again, she's a very, very, very good villain. She's a fucking great villain. One of my favorites, just in anything. And having an entire book that's just dedicated solely to expanding upon that and seeing her go so out of her way to give herself a taste of what she wants is pretty good. So, super glad that I read this. And yeah, this entire final chapter, which is a third of the length of the entire fucking thing, is... I don't know if it's a good enough payoff for how slow some other bits of the book were, but... basically, the other parts with Kamishiro could have just been not as long or tedious. That's the main issue that I have with it, but other than that. Oh, and also in typical Danganronpa writing fashion, like they did in If. Wow, a lot of descriptions are incredibly overwrought. I mean, I get it's always to... every little thing is described to an absurdly high detail, and everything is always described as the most extreme, dramatic, over-the-top thing ever. When people are fighting off each other, it's not like they're just fighting off each other. They're fighting off each other as if they're appearing like an angel and a demon fighting each other in a clash for Earth. And it's for just a basic fight or anything. And it's so over the top and so over dramatizing itself at every single moment. But that's thematically appropriate because everyone that you're dealing with are people who are over the top, over ridiculous characters. Every single one of these characters is someone who has an ultimate talent that is to an absurd supernatural superhuman degree. So it gives that writing sense an excuse of we can make basic things seem incredibly dramatic because every character here is just inherently dramatic to begin with because of who they are as a person. So it has that very, very Danganronpa writing sense that I get from this, and that I also got in If. If probably goes even more overboard with it when it's talking about Mukuro fighting and talking about her being a force of nature spitting through the air and everything, but it's still very present here. Definitely super glad that I read this. So, with the end of Danganronpa 0 and this incredibly long video of me talking forever, I'm gonna go and just drown my throat with lozenges. The next time we come back to Danganronpa, which won't be too much longer, we're going to do the Ultra Despair Higakure. That's from the Danganronpa 2 novel thing. We'll do that. I don't even know if that's really honestly worthwhile, but it's on the game like If was. So I will go ahead and do it and read it because why not? It's there. If it's anything like If, it should hopefully only be 1 3-hour video or even possibly shorter. Either way, that'll be the next thing we do, and then we'll finally get around to the anime for 3. So, hey, stick around for all those things, and actual new plot happening, because the last newest thing in terms of chronological that we saw was the end of Danganronpa 2, and that was forever ago. So, soon, we'll actually get to new plot that takes place after Danganronpa 2. So, until the next novel that I read, which is now taking up a significant process of time on the channel. Until then, this is version 2, signing out.